Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings.
My name is Ben Dickerson. I'm a fantasy geek amongst us.
He's the speech therapist.
Amongst us would be if there was more than two. Among us is just for two, right? So it would be among us. Real quick, let me just say we got a couple of really good friends, mutual friends that have been under the weather. I'm not going to say their names. They know who they are. We're glad that they're back on the mend.
Okay, we got some mutual. You gotta tell me who they are. I have no clue. Who's a mutual friend? What? Why you throw the pen up?
Sly and LaSalle, dog. Who
oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. Well, okay. We'll move on beyond
Are you
that.
kidding me?
I was focused on football, man. That was new. You had to give it to you.
You should really just let it go.
I know. I should. But hey,
pen back.
Hey, you know me. I got to question what's going on. All right. Hey, look. We finished week 4. First quarter of the season. The numbers are in. The second preseason is completed. I don't have a name for the next quarter, the next 3 quarters.
How about let's call it the season?
The season.
The regular season.
Well, a couple things are happening to start the regular season, right? We got some people coming back from suspensions and things like that. So there was a whole set of group of teams who were playing without particular players.
Yes.
Having to make do through that first quarter. So now, except for a few, maybe a Kareem Hunt who won't be back till after week 8.
Right.
But now, so we had some new injection of talent, things of that nature, and some things happening. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at the top 5 based on the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings that I so boldly claimed to produce here. So let's go here. Let's go here. And we're going to start out with Tide, ranked team Tide. And what you'll see there is Tide stands for turnover differential. We produce something called the bias plus report. The bias is the difference in difference in net points between two teams who are going to play each other. And the plus is the turnover differential. We take that net point differential and we combine it with the turnover differential. And we make a score that only we could do because it's mathematically probably not correct. But that's okay because the concepts do marry. And we do know that turnover differential has a big impact on who wins and who loses, which comes down to points, bottom line. So let's look at the top 5. First off, little surprised. Jets in the top 5. You're not surprised?
I'm not surprised because as bad as they look, and because I play fantasy, I see them hoovering in the top third. They've been hoovering in the top third.
Hoovering or hovering?
Well, I say hoovering, you say hovering. I say tomato, you say tomato. But I've seen them around in the top third of the defensive standings in fantasy since the season started. And I know they're not winning, and I know they're not scoring a lot of points. Therefore, there must be a reason why they're up there. And it's because they've been getting some turnovers.
Okay. Aggressive defense, I'm probably being put in some bad positions.
Absolutely. First of all, their rushing stats are probably deceiving because teams have been throwing on them a lot. Actually, they're getting run on and thrown on, so I shouldn't even really say that. But the bottom line is they find themselves in comeback mode quite a bit.
Okay.
And they've been able to get some turnovers.
Packers are actually tied with them. Sometimes I'll go down to a 6th place or something like that when you have a tie because, you hate to say one over the other. But bottom line, both have 4 or plus 4 in the turnover differential. And again, I want to remind people, turnover differential is one of those statistics that has where a team can be in the positive or in the negative. So about half the teams at some particular point are in the negative, both in turnover differential and the net points, which we'll get to. But 4, and you've been kind of cheering on or talking good about commending the Packer defense?
Well, I'll tell you this. There were two defenses that I was really following that I didn't think were getting the kind of discussion that they should have. One was the Buffalo Bills, who the pundits have picked up on and have been discussing. And the other one was the Packers. And then they played the Eagles. And I was like, oh, come on. So I'm going to give them another chance. They got a tough one coming up this week. We'll talk about that in the bias report. But they're sitting in fourth. I like that. Let's see if they can stay.
The bias was with the Packers, and the Packers
in
were
that
home.
Particular game. That's correct. And I was extremely disappointed in this.
Your boy, Durante?
Yes.
Got hurt?
Yes.
So once he went out the game, you know, I remember you talking about him, and you basically proclaimed him like the number one receiver.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And I wondered if your thoughts on him are painted somewhat by your fantasy numbers. And when I look,
fantasy numbers are the real, actual numbers.
Well, so when you're looking at him and you're saying he's number one, because when you say number one, I come from the Madden thing where, you know, who's rated higher than who over because of their specifics, but you come from the fantasy background where it's about production and numbers, especially as they fit the fantasy thing. So I can understand that. And then I saw that Aaron Rodgers throws to Devontae like an out of proportion, big out of proportion, almost like when they were saying that Wentz was throwing to Ertz, and he was actually getting some blowbacks, like, oh, you throw to Ertz too much, you know, like that's like if you're catching the ball, he's moving, and he's getting what I need done, I'm going to him. I could understand that, but the numbers really fell heavily toward Devontae. So now that he's out, you know,
that's a problem for them.
Yeah, you know, when you've been going heavy in one direction,
I'm going to wait and see what happens.
Now you got to actually play the game on a more balanced basis, and we can see if not. Let me just say, when I watch Aaron throw the ball, I'm still just, you know, it's just an amazing thing. The ball comes out so efficiently, so beautifully. He threw a ball, I think it was to Devontae Adams, who was literally surrounded by Eagles, and there was nothing they could do. He was like, he stepped up, the ball just zipped there. It was so efficient. And I kept thinking, you know, is he like Mahomes' fathers? Because they both have that delivery, that amazing delivery. You know, we know Mahomes' father is a baseball player, so, you know, but they both have that great delivery, man. And so if he can get on track with his coaching and whatever they're trying to run in terms of their scheme and actually get that ball around, he can get it to him. But he might be leaning. I don't know if he was leaning. Well, this is the first year for the coach, right?
Yes.
So he might be leaning because that's somebody he knows that even in this uncertain world, he could go there, you know, and it would make sense.
All right. Let me just say something about that first. Number one thing I want to say is I did not proclaim Devontae Adams the number one receiver in the NFL. I said he is arguably the top receiver in fantasy, okay, by the numbers. He is also arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. But we're also talking about Julio Jones. We're also talking about Mike Thomas. And we're also talking about Nuke Hopkins. So everybody's got their favorites amongst those guys. More than two. but yeah, I can't. You can't really just proclaim a guy. When you make a proclamation like that, it's because you just like him better than the other guys. There's always an argument involved. Now, when it comes to the Packers and Rodgers and the use of Devontae Adams has been on the team for like 4 or 5 or 6 years, okay? He came along when they still had some of the other top receivers that they had there back in the past, in the not so far away past.
Yeah. And them guys are gone, right?
That correctly, and they're all gone now. So he's earned the right to be the focus of that team. Unfortunately, as he became the focus of the team, the rest of their receiver core got extremely young. Okay. Geronimo Allison, I think this might be his third year. Valdez-Scantling, this is only his second year.
Okay.
Behind those two, I can't even tell you who the other guys are. So his rapport with Devontae is so much better than the other two that, yeah, he's leaning heavily toward Devontae. Now, those guys are going to have to earn their way if Devontae can't suit up this week.
But let's see if they're in the point where they are in terms of points. So we're still dealing with turnover differential. We still got a couple more categories we got to cover real quick. So I'm going to ask to move on, and let's talk about this strange tie at the top of turnover differential. I think 3 of those turnovers that the Bears got, they got against the Vikings, and we're going to talk about that game. But the Patriots, right at the top of the turnover differential again, and they just played the Bills.
We're going to talk about the Patriots throughout this video. The Patriots are by far, okay, I won't say by far, because every time I say by far, somebody reels me back in, okay? But the Patriots are, if not the top defense in the league right now, they're in the top 3. So, again, I'm not surprised at this.
I kind of think that this is probably the best defense they've had in like the last
no question about that.
years.
There's no question about that. Yeah. That's for sure. And they've had some good defenses, and they've had some really leaky defenses. But because the
defense that came along during the season, too.
We've seen that too.
Right.
Since we've been doing the power rankings, we've actually observed that through the power rankings, where they were middle of the road at best in the beginning of the season, and then slowly started to rise, and every week they got higher and higher and higher until guess who's going to the Super Bowl, and there they are. So yes,
that's the truth.
That's the truth.
That's the truth. So
the Bears, with Khalil Mack, they're a strip sack away every game. So we expect them to be at the top of the turnover pile.
Let's move on to the other component of the net points. If you think that championships are built on defense, well, here you go. We just were talking about the defenses here. At number 5, the Titans.
Right.
All right.
Who, by the way, were, if you count the Patriots-Bears tie on the turnover differential, then that made the Titans actually number 2 in turnover differential. So here they are again in points against. And I know people are saying, oh, the Titans, they're okay, but Mariota stinks, and they don't have much offense if they can't run the ball, but they're hanging in there with defense.
Mariota, okay, we'll talk about that on the scoring side, but yeah, it's hard to say Mariota stinks because he doesn't stink all the time.
Well,
sometimes he plays good.
To some people, that means he stinks, because if you either play well or you don't. But we're not talking about offense now. My point is
defense.
My point is, because of the way people see the Titans, they may be surprised to see them at number 5 in points against. Teams don't run up the score.
Dallas in 4th place with 56, only 2 behind my Niners. Did I do this? Did I put my hand on?
You just did.
Okay, great. My Niners at 54 in points against. Now, you saw we were not in the top 5 in turnover differential.
That's correct.
That's how well the defense played in the face of 5 turnovers against the Steelers. It was a turnover fest, and it probably portends bad things in the future. Because and I'll say this now, the things that kind of screw you up during the regular season kill you in the playoffs. And if they don't get this turnover thing right, it's going to be the death of a really good offensive system, and time where they're doing some really good things. So that's something that I'm really afraid of. But let's go again. Bears points against, that defense is amazing. And as amazing as that defense is, look at the differential now. We have to add the skew in here. The Miami Dolphins skew. All the numbers of the teams who played Miami, the Miami Dolphins, are going to be somewhat skewed.
I would say the skew is really a skew offensively because everybody's going to hold them down. So when we talk about points against, yes, there's a skew, but it's not as bad as it's going to be for points for because they can't score on anybody.
Points for. Let's go. Let's just go ahead there because that's the next step in this movement toward net points. And let's see who's doing the scoring around here. People have been beating up a little bit on the Rams.
Here's your skew.
They're 5th in scoring. Patriots up there, 4th in scoring. Bucks. The Bucks play Miami?
Nope, that's earned.
That's earned.
Every one of them points has been earned.
That was on the Rams.
Every one of them points was earned.
That was on the Rams, right?
No, they were already hoovering. Rams just pushed them up a little bit. The Rams game pushed them up some.
Well, no, they scored 50 points on the Rams.
Okay, that's nice. You're going to call that a skew?
No, I'm saying it wasn't a skew. I'm
They've
saying
been
you said it's earned. I'm saying it's earned. 50 points earned on the Rams.
Yeah, 50 points is earned on the Rams. Their ranking now does not come off the Rams game. They've been up there. That's my point. They've been a top scoring offense all season.
Okay.
For the first one. I'm not saying
points help.
Because if you say, oh, the Rams, then that makes it a skew, and it's not.
Okay. All right.
They're scoring on everybody.
Okay. All right. Interesting connection here. And this was our my intriguing game when they played. Where you have the Ravens and the Chiefs absolutely tied at 135. Now that, as far as the Ravens are concerned, is the skew.
The skew still comes in from the big Miami game where they scored 59 points.
And then they just didn't look like the same team after that.
Right. But they're still kind of holding their own on offense. They still have a viable threat game after game to put points up, as they showed in the Chiefs game.
I think that it kind of messed up their head a little bit to have such a big win coming right out of the gate, because you couldn't even say that Miami was really bad because it was the first game.
Yeah, everybody knew Miami was bad.
I don't know if they knew that they were that bad.
Everybody knew
that they were that bad.
Everybody didn't know that Lamar Jackson was going to orchestrate a whooping on them like that. But everybody knew Miami was bad.
You think
we were still questioning whether Lamar could throw and run. And remember, the big deal was we saw the vanilla side of this new offense that they put up for Lamar. Here's the first real game. Let's see what happens. That was the surprise. The fact that Miami was bad, that's no surprise.
No, I'm not saying the fact that Miami was bad was the surprise. I'm saying the fact that Miami was as bad as they are is the surprise.
Okay, well, it's not
because you didn't have a game to judge them on. Now, like who played Miami after?
I don't know. Patriots, I guess.
I know the Cowboys played them.
Yeah,
they beat them up pretty bad.
Patriots put up a big number.
It's like now I'm looking at the teams that play Miami. It's like if you don't put a serious whipping on them guys, either Miami getting better or you ain't that good.
So, even if your offense is challenged, their offense is so challenged that you should still beat them handily.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they can't win if they can't score.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But look, at this particular point, I just didn't know if it had sort of messed with the Ravens' head a little bit. Maybe they might have thought they were a little bit better than what they actually were. So that was my question. That's why I said that. Okay. So the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings is all about net points. And the net points is that differential. We just showed points against. We just showed points for. And those teams that are in the top 5 are generally the teams that you're going to see, qualifying first and foremost for the playoffs and things of that nature. They normally have the bias going for them going into a game. So let's look at them again. We have the Ravens with 35. I think the Ravens weren't they like number one? So
they were 1 or 2 the last couple of weeks. Yes,
and they pretty much
the skews running out.
The skews, yeah. It's all going away from them. Chiefs, net 41 points. That's a good, healthy net right there. That's pretty good. 49ers, net 42. We struggled a little bit with the Steelers. We were able to finally get it in gear. Cowboys maybe have a little Miami skew built in there, but we shall see. A lot of questions. Just real quick from you on the Cowboys, the big question is the contract with Dak. Pay him, don't pay him. Where do you stand in terms of that whole contract thing?
Jerry Jones is a tough guy to think about, so I'm going to try not to think about him, and I'm going to do the old if I was the owner thing, okay? If he asks for, and I'm not exactly sure where they are numbers-wise now because they haven't said they offered this, he's asking for that. We're still in the ranges that people were talking about early on in the season. So let's just say he said $35 million, and they said, right. Okay, so now Wentz signed for what, 32? Okay, so it's obvious that Dak thinks he's better than Wentz. It's obvious that Dak thinks he should be making more money than Wentz. It's obvious that Dak has valid reasons for saying the things that he says. So if they were in if the Cowboys management was in a let's wait and see, Dak's pretty much showed them everything that they were looking for. I mean, he couldn't be much better than he's already been.
It beat them up a little bit for the game that they just lost to the Saints.
No, that's irrelevant because everybody has a game like that. The Patriots just had one with the Bills. Nobody's saying, "Oh, Tom Brady! Oh my God, I think he's done."
Good point.
So, he doesn't have many more questions that need to be answered. But it seems like the pressure is kind of off now. It seems like he's content to bet on himself and have a really good season, make the playoffs, win a playoff. At this point, winning a playoff game, he's already done that. Wentz still hasn't done that. And the reason I'm bringing up Wentz is simply because they're in the same division. That's all. Nothing else.
Well, yeah, and the scale. These guys set the scale.
Right. They came in together, the whole thing. So that comparison is always there. So as far as I could see, again, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm the Cowboys brass, I'm looking at if we don't make the NFC Championship game, something seriously went wrong. Okay? Dak believes he can do that. He believes he can lead this team as it is right now to the NFC Championship game at minimum.
Okay, so
he's going to get
his scale. His scale, do you think it's tied to how far he can take them this season?
In his mind,
in Dak's
he's
mind.
trying to, yes, in Dak's mind, he is trying to prove to the organization that $35 million he asked for and they scoffed at, he is worth.
So $35 million.
That's the only number that I heard that came from his camp.
Now, you said something interesting, and I hadn't really thought about it like this when you said he's going to bet on himself.
Yeah, that's
a lot of that
saying.
Going on in the NFL
yes,
nowadays,
it is.
And people are, forcing their way off of teams, and they're like, okay, if you don't want to pay me,
I don't consider that betting on yourself.
that Dak, when it comes up to it, assuming he doesn't get hurt, that's his big risk right now. But even if let's say if he got hurt right now, he could. From what I've seen of players who got hurt, who are all-stars, like what's the safety that went from the Seahawks to the Ravens, and he had broke his leg, but he's right now. So they paid him like he was okay. Like the injury didn't, they didn't really subtract for the injury.
Right. So
assuming that he has an injury that he expects to come back from pretty healthy or whatever. But long story short, if you're starting at 35 there, is it a possibility that Dak might just take it to the point where it's like, if you don't give me my number, I'm looking at the open market?
No.
How many years does he have left on his contract? Is this it?
He's right with Wentz. So if Wentz had a year or two left, then he probably has a year or two left, which means, yeah, he wants to renegotiate and get paid what he's worth, which most teams do pretty readily. It's just they don't like the number. So he said, I think I'm worth $35 million. You think I'm not. So I'm going to show you that I am.
Okay.
And either somewhere along the line, they're going to say, okay, come on in, let's do it. Or he's going to play out the season, and then he's going to bang him for another $1 million.
The irony of all the quarterback contracts is sitting right here in front of us at number 1, Patriots, at 95 net points, an obvious, clear superiority in terms of net points to any of the other teams. And if you're looking at quarterbacks and you're looking at Tom Brady, other than the fact of Tom Brady's age, you know, the Tom Brady model, where he's not the highest paid quarterback in the league, yet most people would say, other than Madden, who maybe wants to rate Mahomes a little bit ahead of him, you know, maybe talent-wise or whatever. But long story short, the best quarterback in the NFL right now is not making the most money. You know, it's kind of like that time has passed. Yeah. And then again, he might be making the most money because he is winning all of those Super Bowls and all the residual money that comes to you as a result of that, which, you know, is not contract.
Which
NFL contract.
Which kind of helps him make the choices that he makes.
Absolutely. It's, you know, it's an amazing thing when you're looking at the net points to just know who the big dogs really are, who's really getting it done, or at least got it done through the first quarter.
Right.
Now, who's going to stick and stay? That's the next big question. Okay. So what we want to do is talk a little bit about what happened last week. So now, week 4, we're going to go back. We're going to take a quick look at the games on a game-by-game basis. So let's get that set up here and start off with the Lions and the Chiefs. That was a crazy game.
Yes, it was. It was very crazy, and I'll tell you why. Well, I don't even have to tell the general public why. Nobody expected this to be a game at all. Nobody. Okay? The bias went to Kansas City. It was a pretty big bias, if I remember correctly. Score ended up being 34-30, and Kansas City won at the end of the game. Very entertaining game if you got to watch it. The Lions you probably won't see them play a better game this season against an opponent such as the Chiefs. So that was great. I picked that game. I went with the bias. One of only 7 that I did correctly. I had 7 wins and 7 losses, and not a good week of picking, but we can keep going.
You know, it was an interesting week. All I remember is everyone kept saying that Patrick Mahomes hadn't played indoors in such a long time.
Oh, that's
absolute field day of these perfect conditions. But so the Lions came out and they played well. All right. You guys, I say you guys because we have a Giants fan in the house, had the opportunity to play the Washington. They need to change their names. And you got to win in that one. Dwayne Haskins got his debut, so you had 2 guys who, you know, one guy who just had his debut last week, and now the next rookie coming in had his debut this week. Vastly different results. One guy looks to be the man all of a sudden, taking Manning's place. The other guy is the coach at this particular point going into week 5 is still saying, I don't know who I'm going to play as my quarterback. And he doesn't have an injury issue as the thing that's making the decision hard. So, what did you think about that game?
Well, the game itself, I had no problem with that game. I picked the Giants to win. So did the bias. Here's funny. Here's the merry-go-round we're on when we talk about Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins. Coming into the draft, everybody loved Dwayne Haskins. Few people love Daniel Jones. Some people held speculation that he could possibly be an NFL quarterback. And some people were like, he played for Duke, he ain't no good. Okay? Then the draft happens. People are down on the Giants for taking Daniel Jones. They're up on the team from Washington that needs to change their name because they got the better athlete with the stronger arm and all that. Okay?
That's questionable now.
But as we go through camp, what people failed to realize was we go through camp and we go into our second preseason, and there's no Dwayne Haskins to be found. But by game 3, the Giants have decided we're going to start Daniel Jones. Now, both teams are expected to not have winning seasons. So they're kind of together on that. You could say one pulled the trigger before the other. Okay, fine, but there's a reason for it. Through the real preseason and the first couple of games in practice, I'm sure Daniel Jones proved that he had mastered the Giants playbook and had the tools to run their system as well as, if not better, than Eli Manning. Otherwise, they wouldn't put him out there. Not that early. You lose 2 games and you pull the trigger. There's a reason for that. Okay? Dwayne Haskins, on the other hand, has not either shown that he has mastery of the Washington playbook, isn't making the kind of mistakes that he was making early on in camp where they felt more comfortable with putting him in. They're still waiting for Colt McCoy to be okay so they can throw him in the mix. There's a reason for that. And one thing that people forgot all the way back before the draft even happened was Daniel Jones was a 3-year starter in college. Dwayne Haskins started 1 season. Makes a difference.
Did he play the full season of that one season?
He played that 1 full season.
So he had 14, how many games?
On a freaking
games?
stacked team.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. You know, it's funny because I remember him during the combine where they went, no, it was actually pro days at their own school.
Okay.
Where he got to choreograph his own session. And he particularly included a lot of rollout passes and things of that nature in it so that they could see that he had that mobility and things of that nature. So, you know, that's one thing. But like you said, and I hear you in putting a, you know, saying he hasn't done this or he hasn't done
I don't know
that.
exactly what it is he hasn't done, but it's something that he hasn't done.
My question is more about the offensive coordinator, the head coach, and their ability to, you know, decide what they want to do and really be effective.
It's hard to make a decision.
Because first of all, they went and got, what's his name, who played so poorly.
Case Keenum?
Case Keenum.
Okay.
So, you know, I liked Case Keenum when he was with the Vikings. I thought it was working for him, but we've never, either one of us said Case Keenum was a super duper quarterback.
No, Case Keenum is a career backup.
Didn't look great when he was with the Broncos, right? Broncos let him go. He goes to the Redskins. He still looks like.
Before that, he was with the Texans.
At some particular point, after the ball is snapped, things go, and, you know, and he's not processing.
Or at least after a game or two.
You know, he's not processing things like that. And the ball's not coming out, and he's getting blasted, kind of looking like, what's the name over with the Vikings? Kirk Cousins, you know what I mean? But that seems to be what the team that needs to change their name likes. They like that Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum model for quarterback. So I don't know if you know, Cody doesn't exactly fit it, but he's kind of close. Dwayne Haskins probably is in that model a little bit himself, you know? So they don't expect him to do a lot of running around. I don't know, you know, like his mobility, it will show. But his decision making is what really is under the microscope right now. Case Keenum's decision making is, we already know he goes haywire. Cody Kessler, is it?
Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy, I'm sorry. Colt McCoy. Have a little more confidence that he at least knows the offense and he should be a little bit better in it. But he's Colt McCoy. So you're not expecting a whole bunch here. So at some point, you think that kind of like your Giants, you look at your group of quarterbacks. First question is, are any of these guys going to win you a Super Bowl? No. So now you're operating, are they going to get you to the playoffs? Probably not. So what do you want to do with your team then? At this point, you develop it. That's what the Giants are doing. You might as well, you develop it. And the one thing I will say about the Cardinals, we'll talk about them coming up, is that they know they're in development. And it seems to me that the senior guys on that team are really being very patient. One person we don't have to worry about being patient about is Gardner Minshew with the Minshew magic, baby. I know you like that little dance he did in the pocket, turned around and threw that touchdown.
That was actually a really, really good display of pocket presence and footwork. No doubt about it. He did really well with that.
He danced in that thing.
Yes,
and I mean, his man broke open and he put the pass right on.
Well, first of all, his receivers did exactly what you're supposed to do in a scramble drill, which is what he was doing. He was scrambling. Okay.
People but he scrambled in the pocket.
But that's still scrambling.
I know.
People think scrambling means you break out of the pocket and you take off toward the sideline, you're rolling out, looking. That's not always. That's right. One version. He showed you another version, okay, which is actually okay, I'm not even going to go there. But kudos go to the receiver because he threw it. That guy was a running back.
What was he?
Yes, he came out of the backfield. I think he came out of the backfield. He might have been on the wing. But anyway, he ran like a little inside route, like a little banana route, okay? Started to take it back across field, stopped when he saw him scramble, broke back out toward the sideline, got away from the linebacker that was covering him, got open, boom, he found it. So that's why they have such a thing as a scramble drill. And receivers should take note of that. Jacksonville was the bias plus pick. It was also my pick. And I was pretty satisfied with that game. It turned out the way that I figured that it would.
All right. Minshew magic is in effect.
Mm-hmm.
You got to like it. And, you know, this would be the irony here, right? Foles comes in because his young boy gets hurt. And he takes them way farther than what anybody expected.
Then he gets hurt.
Now the young guy comes in.
And takes them farther than anybody expected.
Which is at least 2 games at this particular
point. And here's the thing. Nobody is like, oh, his weakness is, oh, he's not so good at, oh, well, they need to. You don't hear any of that. All you hear is he did it again.
D-Hop throwing interceptions. Was it week 3 or week 4? It was week 3, I think.
Wait, I didn't see this game. He threw a pass and threw an interception.
You got that right there.
Come on, Nuke.
Not me saying it.
Come on, bro.
What you got to say about the game, though? Texans.
Where's my stuff on this game?
As of week 4, all the numbers are in are net .0. Tied with the Jaguars, net .0.
After this doggone game, they had the bias plus going in over Carolina. They were home. I took them. So me and the net point rankings took the L. I was a little disappointed about this one. Not a lot. I lost 7 games this week or last week, and I wasn't real upset about a lot of them, but a couple of them I were. This one I wasn't, because I'm kind of rooting for Carolina to hang in there until Cam comes back. But that's another story. We won't even go into that.
That's it. We got to talk about
the problem is Deshaun Watson is only going to they're only going to go as far as Deshaun Watson can carry them, and he can only carry them as far as the offensive line will let him. And that's it.
Right now, they're 22nd in scoring with 78 total points.
That's low.
But their defense is 11th at exactly, again, 78 points given up, which is why they're net .0 right now.
Right. But if they're 11th, that means they're a viable defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Deshaun Watson lovers, I mean, if you got him in fantasy, hang in there, but
Deshaun, I still say again, I think Deshaun suffers from that thing that I believe running backs suffer from, and that is having an option in life to actually run the ball. I think he suffers from it a little bit. I think sometimes, yeah, and I think what I'm talking about is, again, the need to master the pocket. I don't think he's mastered the pocket yet.
He has no pocket.
Well, you're saying he has no pocket. But whatever pocket he should have, I don't think he's really – and even it makes it difficult on linemen also. When you got a guy who tends to all of a sudden take off.
He doesn't do that.
I think
you're mixing Deshaun Watson up with somebody else.
Okay.
Go back. You got tape all the games.
I'll double check.
Go back. Tell me how many times. Tell me how many times he goes back to pass, things break down, and he takes off running.
Okay. All right.
That's your sign.
I'm not actually going to count that, but I will go back and double check. And what I'll do is I'll bring you some anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
Some nice plays where you say that.
Okay.
You could have hung in the pocket, but there he goes.
Okay, let me know, because I don't see that.
There he goes.
I don't see
because he has that option. And like I tell you,
not because he has the option, because they don't block.
Well, that's
dude, is he going to stand there? Listen, you can run downfield and have the chance to slide or get out of bounds, or you can stand there and let them break you in half. What are you going to do?
I would run.
Okay, let's go. What's the next game?
But that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying, Barry? He's lucky he has any running ability at all. He's not running. He's not even fast.
Hey, we got the Steelers and the Bengals. What do you think?
I think the Bengals are extremely challenged, and Pittsburgh is somewhat challenged. But the Bengals are extremely challenged. Again, another team with a subpar offensive line and a Swiss cheese defense. I don't expect much of anything out of the Cincinnati Bengals, except for the fact that they will finish last in their division, and they won't have much success unless they come up against the Arizona Cardinals or something, which, in fact, I think they have this week.
Do they play the Dolphins?
I don't know if the Dolphins are in there. I hope so for their sake.
For their sake.
For their sake, I hope so. AJ Green should be coming back soon.
To the basement, though, that and are they doing like the Raiders? They're picking up them first-round draft picks, the Dolphins.
I think they've made some moves and picked up some.
I think, though, there was some question because they're not the only 0-4 team.
Right.
So it's like you pick up all of those picks, but then you got a number of other guys, the teams who are going to be vying for that first pick,
Yeah, well, that's the only valuable thing about. And again, I hate to use the word tanking. I don't think they're tanking, but I think they realize that they're not very good and that they're not going to win.
Oh, you don't think they're tanking?
No, not Cincinnati. No, right. Miami is tanking. Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati is, but I think they do realize that the number of games they win is going to be few and far. I doubt if they even have a winning season.
This was a very entertaining game.
Extremely.
This was a very entertaining game, and it was an eye-opener because, you're wondering, okay, can the Bucks, you got an A-plus team. You got a top team coming in now. What are the Bucks going to do? What is Jameis going to do now that he's got some serious competition coming to town? And, he only put up, 50-some points?
Only. No, it's better than that. A viable team didn't come to town. Tampa Bay went on the road.
Oh, that's right.
They went to the Coliseum. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That makes it a little bit more impressive.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said the cross country that way doesn't.
It's not that big a deal, but still, it was very impressive. If nothing else is going on, and there are other things going on, because we're gonna if we had looked at, you know what? Let's jump back to the power rankings real quick for a second. Let's look at points against. You don't have to, but I mean verbally here.
Okay.
Where are the Buccaneers at? 30th in points against.
They're 15th in net points as of the end of
15th totally, okay. And that's because in points for, they're number 3. Okay?
They sure are.
They're doing something over there.
135.
They're doing something over there. And here's the strange twist. Although their defense may not be a top-rated defense, they're a little better against the run than they are against the pass. They've been torched in some games. But because they can put up points, every week, especially when they play good teams, is going to be a shootout. And when it's a shootout, they got a chance to win.
So let me ask you this question, because you brought up the defense.
Yes.
Right? End of week 4.
Yes.
Bucks are 30th.
Okay.
They're giving up 117 points. Again, relative to the number 1 team, the Patriots, who only gave up 27. Doesn't this kind of feel like previous seasons with the Buccaneers? Isn't that what they were kind of known for? Shootouts? Scoring a lot of points?
No, they were known for shootouts, scoring a lot of points, and throwing 3 and 4 interceptions the doggone game. That's the difference.
But they were giving up a ton of points.
Yes, that's the bad part.
Yeah, that's what I'm
but if you don't,
talking about.
If you don't turn it, if Jameis doesn't turn the ball over, they have a chance to win.
Okay, so you're saying that the reasoning now with that Jameis looks better. I think we all agree Jameis looks a little bit better so far.
There we go.
We'll see if that holds.
That's cool.
We'll see if that holds. Now the question is, are we going to be back to Jameis and a potent defense that's really need to get some help to get that work in. All right. So now let's see who we can mess with next. That would be Chiefs, Lions. Okay. We talked about that.
A little bit, yes.
In the earlier portion.
Right.
Where we talked about the net points and talked about how everyone was expecting Mahomes to come into a dome and just go berserk, as if the Lions had no defense on the field. The Lions came in and showed up defensively, put those boys through some paces, gave them some serious resistance.
They had a couple stops, didn't they?
Had a couple stops. Matter of fact, the winning touchdown, it took Mahomes. Well, it didn't take Mahomes, but it was just, I thought it was almost symbolic to see Mahomes actually pushing on the back of the pile to try to get
the guy across. Yeah,
because it had a couple scrums. It looked a little like rugby in a couple of those situations.
Yeah, Detroit, they came to play.
But I will say this much. I almost got to give it to the Chiefs. We're ready to play some big boy football, because in those short yardage situations, they ain't all necessarily spreading out and running around. They lining up.
Yeah.
And coming downhill. I had to give it to them. There's a little bit of big boy football going on there in Kansas City.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I mean, it's when you have an explosive offense like that, and you're able to say that we got some power in our repertoire too, that's all the better. You always say you got to have certain phases of your offense. Power's one of them. So I will say this. I don't know what Matt Patricia said to the team before the game, but he needs to bottle that speech and say it every week, because I haven't seen them play a really good, not a good team, a really good team that well in a long time. I mean, they were right in the game. There wasn't they took a big lead and then they caught up.
Well, it makes you think that maybe that game against the Eagles wasn't a fluke.
No, it wasn't. But I don't want to. I've already had Eagle people shout me down about that when I'm not doing this Eagle thing this year. I'm not.
Okay, all right.
The way they see things is completely different from any other regular football fan. So I'm not going to entertain that.
Cowboys.
We know why.
Cowboys, Saints. Speaking of big boy football, the Saints is like, yeah, we're going to hand the ball off. Even though Ingram is no longer here, we're still going to run the ball. But what's the
Kamara?
Kamara is an amazing guy.
Kamara can run between the tackles, can't he? Look. If you look at the top of the running back rankings, two of them dudes are real small dudes, McCaffrey and Kamara. And they've both proven that even at the size that they are, that they have the strength, the quickness, the leg drive, whatever you want to call it, to be able to run inside, which just makes their outside game even bigger, makes their pass catching game
because you don't have to take them off the field at all.
You don't have to.
The beauty is you don't know as a defense what they're going to come at you with because they can come. There's nothing that they can't come at you with. They can come at you with the power. They can come at you with the speed.
Exactly.
Flank them out, flare them out, put them as a slot. Yes. They can put him out wide. Exactly. You don't know where he's going to put. And then they got Taysom Hill trying to truck people.
Taysom Hill's a tough dude.
Trucking.
He's a tough guy. He's one of them BYU knuckleheads.
And they're basically using him kind of like the way they use him with Drew Brees.
As they should. When there was a question as to which one of them was going to actually be the starting quarterback, I was kind of hoping they didn't make it a, you know what I mean? Because it's the old saying, if you got two quarterbacks, you really don't have any. They brought Teddy there, and they paid Teddy to be the number 2 guy, and he's paying
dividends right now.
Yes. He can only get better. It might be a little slow for some folks' taste, only because Brees was so good, you know. But he's coming along. The surprise may not be a surprise to some, may not be much of a surprise to some, but the surprise is the New Orleans defense. That's going into that Cowboys game. People were like, yeah, it's New Orleans, and yeah, they're home, but Zeke probably gonna run all over them. He'll throw a couple up to Amari. They'll be okay. No, sir. Zeke had a bad game. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say Zeke didn't have a very good game. Zeke had a bad game.
Yeah, Zeke was averaging like 3 yards a carry or something like that. And it wasn't but like 27 yards or something ridiculous like that.
Right.
That stat came up when they were talking about paying Dak. They're like, well, we just paid Zeke all that money, and look what he just did in that same game.
They focused on stopping him, and
that's the question then. With
Dak couldn't save him.
Right.
But that's only one game. And it was a good game, and anybody can have a game.
Cameron Jordan.
Okay.
Yes. He's an ascending player. He's a guy that you might not always talk about.
Real good season last year.
And a good season,
another one.
And let me tell you, man, these front sevens on defenses, it's like when you're looking at these games and you're like, okay, the offense should do X, Y, Z because they have this level of a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, but they've got this level of a defense.
Right.
Defense, especially with a guy that is going to command at least the double team.
Yeah.
At least the double team, which automatically throws your offense into a mode where you're making adjustments that you would prefer not to make.
Exactly.
In many cases, you're not running the play as truly as what it was originally designed.
Right.
You know, you got to do a little something extra here because if not, he's going to wreck the deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to wreck the deal. All right. So who's up next in our list here? We have the Panthers. And did we just talk about the Panthers?
No, I just brought up McCaffrey. We didn't talk about the game.
No, because we were talking about. I know we were talking about.
Watson. Yeah, we also talked about Watson. But we never actually talked about the game.
The game.
And Power Rankings picked Houston. I picked Houston. Took the L. You know what? We did talk about that game.
Maybe we did, but maybe not. In any event, no, I don't think so because, again, we didn't talk about McCaffrey. And we can't really talk about that game unless we talk about
McCaffrey.
Okay.
He chewed them cats up, man.
But he had that one run, right?
Yeah.
He broke out. Once he broke out, it was off to the races.
And he's good for one or two of them every game.
He had one game where he had a Zeke-style game like last week or something like that, where he didn't do a whole bunch, and it was making you go, what happened here? Yeah. Then next thing you know, he's back.
He's a terror. He's a terror when he gets his hands on the ball.
All over the place.
Yeah.
And you really have to kind of say, okay, this guy is really proving his mettle.
This is one of the losses that I took that I was grieving over a little bit, because I don't think I thought that extra couple of minutes about the matchup. And, having said all the things that I just said about Deshaun and his problems with his offensive line and all that, I should have known better to give Carolina's front seven a little bit more credit and taking Carolina. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking they're still working with Kyle Allen.
Yeah, you still got a backup quarterback. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
But the score was close. It was 16-10, and I wish I had taken Carolina. But I didn't.
Can't pick them all. I wish I had gotten Amazon when it was $100 a share.
Yeah.
You can't get them all. Sometimes you just have to take that. Just have to look at it and go, okay, what can I say? Can't get them all. Speaking of can't get them all, I keep hitting my cousin here. She keeps popping up. Vikings, Bears.
They threw me off with them helmets.
I know.
They kept throwing me. I'm like, who? I kept thinking Denver was playing. I saw this orange stripe. Messed me up, man. They went big time throwback on those. I never seen those before.
I have another nickname, and the nickname goes to Khalil Mack.
Okay.
Khalil Mack is now the Great Disruptor. That's his nickname. Khalil, the Great Disruptor Mack.
Doesn't have much flair to it, but he is, in fact, a great disruptor.
It's absolutely, and you know what, man? So he's one of those guys, when he's being as disruptive, now other guys start to get in on it. Because if you have to focus on him and you have other good players in that front seven, you're going to have a problem.
Yes.
You're going to have a problem. Now, you know that I have a particular thing that I want to share that had to do with this game. I don't know if this is it. Let me see if I can get this set up for people here. But, all right, here we go. We're somewhere in the area, so I'm going to have to just kind of let this play a little bit as I share this with the people. So we'll get this there, and then we're going to actually play this and put this in. But this is what I was talking about when I was saying other guys getting in on it. Okay. But, you got heat. First of all, you don't roll to this side.
If you just rolled away from him. Just rolled away again.
You got to do that. So that automatically begins to make you have to do things. So now you're trying to run the screen, and you got the man, Kwiatkowski. I haven't given him a nickname yet, but as you can see, he's making an impact. The funny thing is, I saw this and I kept thinking about. Did he come in
for somebody that got injured?
Yeah, he came in for.
Oh yeah, Danny Trevathan.
Trevathan, right.
Well, he made his mark.
He made his mark. He's playing the game. But watch this. Blah!
All right, now you have to show that again. Show it again and tell people what to focus on.
Oh,
nobody knows what you're laughing at right now.
All right. Nobody knows.
Because people have a tendency when they're watching highlights to watch the ball.
I don't have to, because they were getting ready to show it again. But that's okay. Let's go back to it. All right. So there you got that. So now, here he comes. Blam!
Do people know what you're blaming?
Yeah, because he's taking what's the name?
Show the play again.
They're getting ready to show.
Okay. Watch Dalvin Cook attempt to block number 44. Thank you. Okay, so if you didn't know what he was blaming, that's the blam.
Oh my God,
it's embarrassing, Dalvin Cook. And I love you, Dalvin Cook. I really do.
I just enjoyed that so much.
But that's embarrassing.
It's like, holy mackerel. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, that's enough of that.
You cover all the games?
No, not yet. We didn't cover them all yet. We got some more stuff to do. But I had said to you that as tough as I am on Kirk Cousins, that I actually I'm looking at this offense and I'm going, they needed to do something because there was an obvious problem there. Hard enough trying to keep Khalil Mack in check. But when you're a running back, I absolutely cannot handle a blitz from that side with Kwiatkowski coming at him like that.
He couldn't on that play.
Well, he whiffed on one play. You showed where he looked like he was
his eyes closed.
Yeah, who's the guy?
He stepped in the hole, he lined the guy up, put his head down, and the guy ran by him. He closed his eyes for contact. Yeah.
What the heck's going on there? All right. Let's go to the next game in this scenario here. And we will move over to, all right. So now, Browns-Ravens. Again, the skew in effect. You're thinking the Ravens, they just look. They were definite net point favorites.
Definite net point favorites, and they were home. And as far as I could see, over the first 3 games of the season, they were the better team. I felt strongly about that. Cleveland came to play. I don't know. I'm not buying into this Baker Mayfield tough guy at the post-game conferences. Yeah, keep that same energy. Hey, throw us in the trash. I'm not buying all that. But that's Baker Mayfield. He hasn't changed. That's who he is. Okay? I don't know what they did.
Well, I know one thing they did.
But they came ready to play.
I know one thing they did. They put up like, what, $160 rushing or something like that?
Yeah, well, they had the one really long, tremendous run. But overall, he had a really good game.
They were clocking him in miles per hour as he was running by. I think it was like 22 miles per hour or something like that.
Yeah, the Ravens defense showed some holes.
There's questions now. We just talked about the safety that came from the Ravens. Why do I keep forgetting his name?
I know, and every time I can see
But they're talking about whether or not he was kind of like freelancing a little bit, or maybe he wasn't quite as intense as he usually is. He's a guy that normally covers sideline to sideline. He's a guy that's always, he had a broken leg last year, but at the end of the season. But he wasn't exactly running that guy down, and doing any Superman type stuff.
If he doesn't get him as soon as he gets to the second level, he ain't gonna run him down. Chubb ain't slow.
He sure ain't. He sure is not.
But he's running with a lot of confidence and a lot of leg drive, and he's the guy the Browns wanted him to be. He's coming into his own right now.
He's getting it done. Patriots Bills. You were looking forward to this game.
Exactly the kind of game I thought it was going to be. I almost took Buffalo. I remember now. I wanted to take Buffalo. I was like, the heck with the rankings. I'm going to go. And then I thought better of it. And I said, I can't. I have to go with the Patriots. But doggone it if it wasn't a really, really good game.
Very good game.
Tight game. Bills defense is for real. Okay.
Brady threw his first interception.
Oh, that was his first interception this season?
I think so.
Oh, very good. And the bad thing was Josh Allen got a concussion, but I checked on him today. I think I called his mom.
I need to know for fantasy purposes.
I checked some fantasy stuff today, and he's part of the way through the protocol. They're allowing him, they're allowing him to do some workouts, and also he's moving along just fine. I doubt that they will play him this week because I believe they go on the bye next week. So they'll probably give him 2 weeks off, and then
do they give him the test when they go he goes, is this the bus to go to school?
They give you that under the blue tent.
Under the blue tent.
Under the blue tent. Yeah.
If you stop saying that, it's like, I think he just got his bell rung, as they used to say back in the day. Just got his bell rung. That's how it used to be. And now the bells won't stop ringing. All right, Eagles, Packers. Speaking of ringing bells, man. I had the feeling on this game.
Did you?
That the Eagles decided at some point that they were just going to out-hit the Packers.
Oh, okay.
Even if it bordered on maybe a little on the questionable side of being dirty. Like there might have been a few hits that were a little questionable.
They put a little extra mustard on it.
Extra something, yeah. Like, you hold them up, let me get them. type hits.
Okay.
But it does have it's like in boxing. We talked about it. You know, them body blows after a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's doing like this.
Yeah.
And you're coming up, pap, 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 you know? I think, and then Devontae Adams going out.
That hurt.
Big time. We kind of talked about that. So I won't belabor the point unless you have something else.
No, I was just going to say kudos to the Eagles. Again, kind of like Cleveland. They went on the road with a determination that we really can't lose this game. It might not have been a must-game scenario in the general sense of the term, but to them, they were determined to win that particular game, and they actually did it. So,
notice in that picture, you have a guy jumping over a guy.
Yes.
And I just want to set aside just to say, I've seen now 2 or 3 times, and it kind of happened with Vernon Davis.
Yes.
Where they see the guy coming in and they jump, and the defender no longer falls for it. So they're literally jumping up in the air for nothing. And the defender's waiting for them. Okay, come on back down here. And it's happened 2 or 3 times now where guys are jumping and they're like either mistiming them really badly, or the defender is just no longer falling for that mess anymore.
I heard or read somewhere that there is talk, and it may never come to fruition.
They use that word again.
That there's talk that outlawing hurdling players may come into effect somewhere along the line when they talk about rules again.
Outlaw the hurdle?
They may not. I don't know. I think it's already been outlawed in high school, at least in some states.
Really?
Yeah, it hasn't been outlawed in the college game yet, but that would be the next step.
Speaking of college game,
usually always has a bad ending.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's, we've seen some.
Oh yeah, sure, because they replay them over and over and over and over again. But a lot of times ago, Hawkinson, he's out with a concussion jumping over somebody.
Okay. Seahawks, Cardinals, division game. We have Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson Jr. Russell Wilson knows what he wants to do in his offense. Russell Wilson Jr. and his coach are still trying to figure things out. But they both have an arm. They both have that baseball throwing capability. They're both quick as heck. Russell has the old Fran Tarkenton spin down to a science now, and the other is still learning how to move around. But he kind of looks like Mighty Mouse running around in the trees down there, and he'll make that rookie mistake. They are actually
both 5'11".
I don't know.
Russell's.
I think
just when you look
Russell
at him,
might be 5'11". I'm having a hard time believing
he's more my height, like 5'9" and a half. I think he's more like 5'9" and a half.
But that's what I was saying about it's a beautiful thing the way that the senior players and all those big guys on the Cardinals just support him, even if he makes a mistake.
They have to.
There's
He's
no
their guy.
Yeah, but there's some discontent on some of these other teams now that are not doing well, quarterback's not playing well, things aren't clicking or whatever. But these guys they knew what it was going to be like when they came in. They see that he has athletic potential. He can run. He can throw. He kind of has a better grip on this offense probably than most people on this team because he ran it,
Yeah.
Maybe not so much, but, but again, the patience with him, I just thought was commendable. So.
Well, a lot of that discontent you're hearing on the other teams is very self-centered, personal stuff. Guys worry about themselves, not the team. The Cardinals seem to understand the state of their team, and they understand that it is written, this kid is our future. So if I don't have an easy way out of here, I'm going to have to ride this train,
But I think it also I think there's a certain amount of maturity. Well, you got Fitzgerald, right? So, that's maturity.
Right.
And he just hit another milestone.
Yeah, he did break a record. Oh, what was it? Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was a receptions record.
Okay.
Jerry Rice was there, and they had Jerry make sure he gave some love and everything, and them guys go back and forth.
I know that killed him.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jerry said, he didn't break Jerry's record. He's just second, so he's looking at Jerry's record.
He's coming up on
Jerry doesn't think he's going to get it, but he said, hey, if he gets it, I got a lot more records.
That's Jerry Rice.
Yes, the GOAT of all GOATs. The GOAT of all GOATs. All right. What do we have next here? Oh, man. It was so much fun last week. Titans. Falcons. All right. What's the deal with the Falcons?
It's another disappointing loss for me, really. You're home. You have weapons on offense. I realize that your defense isn't great. And I realize the Titans' defense is a lot better than people want to give them credit for. But if you haven't watched the teams that have already beaten the Titans and what they've done to shake up Mariota, who's so easily shaken, if you can't figure that out, then you deserve to lose. And if you can't shake him up, get to him, rattle him, then you're going to get run on. And basically that's what happened. Now, if they don't have nothing else consistent on the Titans team, they can run the ball. Derrick Henry might only get 3-4 yards a carry, if that, okay? But they're going to keep feeding him, and they're going to keep pounding you, and they're going to keep time of possession, and you're going to be in trouble. So your defense has to give you something. Turnover here, there's something.
Well, the defense, as of the end of week 4, is actually rated higher than the offense. They've given up 99 points. They're ranked 22nd. The offense is ranked 27th, tied with the Broncos, scoring 70 points. Falcons have a minus 29 net points, ranking them 27.
When we look at them, we still look at them like a couple of years ago when they were vying for Super Bowl and they were in the Super Bowl and all. Because so many of the names are still the same. Devontae Freeman, Matty Ice, Julio Jones. They got the new kid, Calvin Ridley from Alabama. Sanu is still on the team. I see all these names, but his team is just not the same.
Well, offensively, we had the big question after Kyle Shanahan left, whether or not the guy who took over for him offensively
is using the players to their fullest.
Kyle again broke a record for most number of players in one season who actually score. I mean everybody
spread the ball around.
They spread the ball around. That's what he does. It seems like that's what he's trying to do now.
But he spread the ball around successfully. So whether they throw on 1 person or 10 people, they're not having success.
Whatever's happening.
Something's wrong.
Well, all right, let's move on.
You used to be able to go to the Falcons game even if you didn't care about it for some entertainment. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Chargers, Dolphins. The skew, is it in effect with the Chargers? Or did the Chargers go down there? What did they do?
First of all, they flew from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Okay, so that was...
So they had a little jet lag on them.
Jet lag.
Is this game on my chart here? Yeah, it is. They put up 30. Again, like I said, Miami only scored 10. So everybody that plays them is going to get skewed. Everybody. Nobody's skew is going to be any better than the other unless they have an otherworldly offensive performance like the Ravens did. So that's why we're still talking about the Ravens skew. The Patriots were close to having an all-out skew because they scored 40-something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Other than that, you know, everybody's going to score 28, 30, 35 on them. Everybody. And the Dolphins are going to get a touchdown and a field goal or 3 field goals or they're going to get shut out. And that's just the way it's going to be.
That's the way it is. All right, Benny, that wraps up the portion of the program where we went back and looked at each one of those games. Next up, we are going to do the Bias Plus Reports,
AKA the matchup
show. All right, so in this part of the show, Ben, we're going to do the Bias Plus Report, AKA the matchup show,
right, for week 5.
For week 5. So we're starting into what you call the regular season. This is really the regular season. The first 4 weeks was the second preseason. Now we're going to the regular season, okay? Which is only kind of skewed a little, is that word again, skewed, by some of the people who are coming back from suspensions and things like that. It's just a few, but it's some people coming back this week who really didn't play at all,
right,
in the first 4 games.
Be it suspension, injury.
So we'll try to mention that as we move through some of those games. But the fireworks will kick off this coming Thursday with a division game. We talk about the bias plus being the bias being the difference between the 2 teams, the net points plus the turnover differential. But I don't know how to account for the weirdness of division games, because in a division game, it's not like when they play non-division games. You think sometimes they're not going to be competitive, and they're competitive as heck. But here you have my sleeper, right? Not my squad, but the sleeper team.
Yes,
the Seahawks, against who should be considered the top dog in the NFC.
Some people consider the Rams the top dog in the NFC. Some do not.
The Bias Plus score is 8, favoring Seattle in this situation.
However, the net point bias is only 1. What's the difference? Seahawks, 7+ on the turnovers. Guess what? That's enough for me. I think that Jared Goff is going to step on a little hornet's nest when they go up there to Seattle with the 12th man and all that stuff. I'm going with Seattle. I'm going with the bias. I think they're going to take the Rams out.
All right. It's official. Ben's going with the bias, and it's close. I mean, that's nothing. Who's home on that? I forget.
Seattle.
Oh, that's their home. So you have the weirdness factor, the home field advantage, the bias, and questions about Gurley.
Yeah, these questions persist, and I like Todd Gurley, and I wish that he would have a breakout game somewhere along the line. I doubt that it'll be this week, though.
He did have a good game against Seattle in the past. He's had
good games against Seattle in the past. But he's not breaking out against anybody right now.
Also in the division, we have Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. So we're going up against the Bengals. Now the Bengals right now are 31st in net points. They're the only team worse than them is the Dolphins, who at 32nd is minus 137.
Okay.
So that's a big stretch between 137 to 53. Now, once you get to 53, then you start to join the rest of the league in terms of being pretty close. I mean, 30 is 52. 29 is minus 41. So it just showed you how far out of whack these losses are that the Dolphins have, and that's what we call the skew. But Kyler Murray now is going to come in. He's 0-3-1. You know, he's got a tie under his belt. He didn't lose every game that he played in his second preseason, right? The second preseason of his career. But they're playing against the Bengals, who, you know, again, the Bengals are 30th in scoring. The Bengals are 26th in giving up points. And the Bengals, let's see, where do they fall in terms of turnover differential? They're 29th with minus. As a matter of fact, they're in a 4-way tie at -5 in the turnover differential. Falcons, Bengals, Broncos, and Giants. Again, Dolphins ranked 32nd, holding their own at -7, where everybody else is -5. So that's what you're dealing with right now in this particular game. The bias score 16 favors the young boy.
I feel like I'm going to choke. I haven't looked at the rest of the Cardinals' schedule, but if there's a game they're going to win or could win, this will be it. Here's the problem. Well, first let's look at the facts. They got the bias, 12. They got the turnover bias, 4. Gives them the bias plus a 16. It's not a huge number, but considering we're looking at 2 bottom feeders, this could bode well for the young fella. But the Bengals are home. They're a proud franchise. They need wins just to make it. They're not going to make the division.
Well, they both have new coaches, right?
Yeah.
They both have new coaches. So, you know, that's an evening factor there. I don't know. Can't say what one coach came in, you know, with the air raid, like that was going to do something, but he's got problems in the red zone, and it's trying to implement something new and innovative into
and he's one step away from being Chip Kelly.
He's one step away, but he is so far one step away, which is better than being Chip Kelly. But, you know, but you do have the Bengals over there, and their top receiver.
AJ Green's on his way back. He won't be ready for this game.
So that's almost like Devontae Adams being out for the Packers, eh?
AJ hasn't played at all.
Okay.
Got hurt in preseason.
But I mean, in terms of if you're in a new offense, new guy, established quarterback.
No. Their receiver core is a little bit more. They got Tyler Boyd. They got John Ross, although I think he's
hurt.
He got nicked last week.
Yeah. Little guy, real fast. However,
Tyler Eifert, who's
tends
been
to get hurt.
Injured for the last couple of seasons, is now healthy. So these are guys that have been playing with Andy Dalton for some years now. Okay, so they've got a rapport. Rodgers really doesn't have a rapport with his other receivers, so there's a difference there.
Well, the other difference is that, again, Bengals are 31st in scoring, only putting up 57 points. What's the problem? What the problem is here?
We talked about it previously. The offensive line is a mess.
Fine.
And even though here's the difference. Even though, well, it's not the difference, for lack of a better word. Even though the offensive line is a mess, Mixon is still a handful in the running game.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
And Dalton can still throw the ball. Now, if Ross can't play this week, I don't think he's been totally ruled out, but it's not looking good. He hasn't practiced all week. If Ross can't go and A.J. Green is still a couple weeks away, they're going to be challenged in the passing game, which means that they must be able to run the ball against the Cardinals to be able to make the game competitive. And the Cardinals' running defense is not very good. So that's their saving grace right there. Guess the
Bengals are one ranked step ahead of in defense.
The Dolphins probably.
No, the Cardinals.
Okay. So I understand that. The difference is the Bengals are at home. The Bengals have, I think, a lot more pride invested in where they finish in their division, knowing how bad off their team is compared to the Ravens and the Browns and the Steelers. I think they feel like they really got to have this win. And I think that'll be enough to take them over an opponent like Arizona that has so many issues. So even though the numbers say Arizona, I'm going against the bias and I'm going to take the Bengals. They need a win. They need it bad. Their fans know it. I think the stadium's going to be rocking because, look, there's somebody coming in here that we can beat. And they're going to be cheering for them, and they're going to be ready, and they're going to be hyped, and they're going to say we cannot lose to the Cardinals, and they won't.
Okie doke. Let's move along to. All right, now, this is an interesting matchup. Almost an intriguing matchup, although it's not my intriguing game for Sunday.
It is intriguing, though.
It is intriguing, down to the similarity in the helmets. They almost look like, don't they? It's kind of white and flowy. By a score, 23 favors the Titans. But the Bills have been playing so good, and they just came off that loss to the Patriots. Unlike the Dolphins, you know, even your loss points have more value, it seems, and less skewed. That's a, you know, so again, quarterback is might come out of concussion protocol, right? Might come out.
He might, I doubt if he will. I wouldn't.
So assuming that they're going to then have their backup in there at quarterback. And let me quick shout out to the backups. Okay.
Yeah, we're seeing a whole bunch of them this year.
We talked about, and this is a quick aside, the new proposals for the changes in the systems where the owners wanted an 18-game season. I'm saying system, but it's season with 2 preseason. Now I understand it's more like a 17-game with 1.
They want to play a true 17 games.
They're negotiating all of that now with the union, right? But one of the things that I said I liked about the longer season, where especially if they held the starters to 16 games, is that you would have to play backups. You would have to have a better, more quality squad going a little bit deeper in order to really be competitive, because you got a couple games where you're not going to have your starters in there, you know? So, for example, when we were looking at the Bears, right?
Wait a minute. Is part of this proposal that your clear starter can only play X number of games?
16.
Well, I think that's stupid.
Well, maybe so. But if they were to do that, my contention is that it would change a bit of the structure of the pay scale, the contracts, because you now have to move some of that top end money that you're paying, you know, big bucks to the one guy. You really are going to have to filter it down in order to make sure you have a quality squad a little bit deeper down, that your second strings now are going to be guys that you really need to depend on, not just guys that you hope never have to
play. We talk about this at every position. Every clear-cut depth chart number 1 guy has to play or can only play, because he doesn't have to play 16 games because he can miss a game.
Why would you want? Again.
So that means he can only play 16 games.
That's what I'm understanding.
He can only start, let's be real specific. He can only start 16 games.
Play versus start, we'll get back to you on that, okay? Again, these are negotiations that we're getting secondhand reports from, but my contention simply is, and this is if that happens, then I think the money is going to have to be more equitably, if I said that correct, shared along the team in order to have a better team deeper down. So it's unless they just simply, now again, I'm looking at it on a percentage basis.
Right.
We know the pie is going to get bigger overall.
Right.
So, you know.
But that's yet to come.
Can you imagine a $30 million year backup? But if they raise
for one stinking game? No.
No, but I'm saying if the pie, even if right now, your top backups, what do you think they're making in the NFL?
In the teens.
in the teens. So let's say 15. We'll just throw 15 as
the
the
20s.
Okay, to the 20s. So then if the pie gets bigger, okay, starters might be making 40. First of all, Mahomes is going to mess this whole scale up.
That's 10 years from now, 30 million will be nothing. We already know that.
That's what I'm talking about.
We don't. But I understand why you're saying what you're saying as far as the value of your second string players is concerned. Because if you're going to put a limit on how many games starters can play, then that backup guy becomes important because everybody knows some team or teams take it right down to the wire as to whether they can make the playoffs or not. So, yes, they become very important. Now, I don't know it's so important that it's going to throw the money way out of whack, but something's going to have to be done to make sure that you have quality backups at every position, which every team should try to do any doggone way because it's football and people get hurt. And you don't want your level of play to drop precipitously.
That's pretty good. I probably
from your backup
have pronounced that correctly.
From your backup to your second string guy. I don't care what position it is. Right?
So we're gonna keep an eye on that.
Yeah, please keep an eye on that. But I tell you what, I'm not feeling real good about that proposal. I'm really not. But we'll see what the player.
How are you feeling about the Bulls and the Titans with the Titans having the bias in their favor? How are you feeling about that?
This is the thing.
That's the question.
This is the thing. We got two real good defenses here. We got one defense, being the Titans, that's kind of carrying their team right now. We have another defense, like the Bills, that just had a real good statement game against the New England Patriots and proved that they're a really good team. The problem is the Bills' starting quarterback has gone down, and he was beginning to get a really nice rapport with his receivers and was running their system and their game plans to perfection and proving that as a young quarterback, he really has a grasp on what it is that their team is trying to do. That being said, and the fact that their running game via Frank Gore was steady but not super threatening, this is probably going to aim toward the Titans. Now, it looks like the Titans have the bias.
They do.
But,
can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, just a quick rundown. All right, let's start in points 4.
Okay.
All right, when we're looking down the list here, the Titans come in at 13 with 91 points scored. The Bills come in at 23rd with 76.
Okay, not a huge difference. Go ahead.
But it is a difference. And points against, Titans come in at 5th, all right? They were in the top 5, only giving up 63 points. Your Bills, however, where are they at? Oh, right underneath of them at 6th place, 63 points.
Okay.
1 point difference there. So your net point situation, your Titans are 5th with 29. Your Bills are 13th with 13. The Titans are 3rd in turnover differential. The Bills are 24th. They're -2. Titans are +5. So that's a big differential in turnovers. If you have that situation with the Bills where there's some questions with the new quarterback and things, yeah, they might be a little more turnover prone anyway. And they just played the Patriots, who lead the league in they're second. Well, actually, they're tied with the Bears for first in turnover differential.
Okay.
So tough game for them. Titans look like a tough team. You're going with?
I'm going with Buffalo. Yes, I'm going against the bias again. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills.
Going against the bias.
I'm going to look like a genius next week.
Neither one of us looked like geniuses last week.
It was horrible, and that's why I'm telling you, I don't do 7-7. That ain't me. I need a winning record every week, even if it's one game. I have to have a winning record.
Well, we have Sterling net point rankings overall is definitely on the winning side. So.
Right, which tells folks that I could just go with the rankings every week, and I would probably have a winning record. But even the rankings fell off last week, right?
No, he can't do that.
I can't do that. I'll never do that. Never.
Bias Plus score 51 favors the Bears against the Raiders. Khalil Mack goes back to what's that, the Coliseum where they play at?
Who the heck knows where they play at nowadays?
They still got the baseball field and everything out there.
Are they at the old stadium, the Alameda County Coliseum?
Not at the new one yet in Nevada. So
I think they're at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum,
local high school there,
or wherever
They might be doing better than the Chargers, though.
I hate that baseball
they're
field.
playing at the playground around the corner.
Playground around. Yeah, but they are building a new stadium, or supposedly.
It's coming. It ain't there yet. All right. 51
means nothing.
Favors the Bears. Can Gruden look like a genius and beat Khalil Mack? Can he control Khalil Mack?
No.
You let him go. So that must mean you must know what to do with him. You must have some idea. Either that or it wasn't him that let him go. Maybe it was management.
I don't know who let him go.
It wasn't him.
I don't know who let him go. I don't know why they let him go.
And what did I call him?
I don't think they remember why they let him go.
I call him the great disruptor.
He is a great disruptor. And unfortunately, Mr. Carr is going to get a bunch of him in his face. Josh Jacobs had some issues last week. I can't exactly remember what the heck they were, but I think he might be a little bit dinged. That's not going to be good. Tyrell Williams, who played for the Chargers last year and is now the top receiver. Well, he's the top wideout for the Raiders, is having himself quite a season. The guy that's really having a season is probably the best receiver on the team is Waller, Darren Waller, the tight end, who they've been doing a lot of stories on. He has some substance abuse issues in his past, but he is really coming to his own. And they're kind of carrying the Oakland offense. But I don't know that the Oakland defense is going to be able to control him. I'm not saying this because Mr. Trubisky, who's probably going to be
able to control who? The Oakland defense.
The Chicago offense.
Well, that's the funny thing.
And the crazy thing is, it's Chase Daniel now.
People are saying that they might be better off with Chase.
Well, Chase is going to look better. You know why? Because Chase is better. Chase Daniel is the more seasoned. Right. He's the more seasoned, better overall quarterback. Trubisky's lucky to have Chase Daniels in the quarterback room helping him during the week. But he's not there yet. He's not there yet. And he's still young. We can't, he's still young. And he might be what they drafted him to be. Okay, but he's not right now. And Chase Daniel's going to be a problem for the Raiders. And I'm going with the Bears. I have to go with the bias. It's 51, which is a nice number. And I'm going with the Bears.
Interesting scenario here relative to the rankings, okay? Because the Bears rank second defensively. They've only given up 45 points, only second to the Patriots, who gave up 27. Right? Offensively, however, the Bears are 28th.
Yeah, but where are the Raiders?
Wait a minute. 66. They've only scored 66 points, right? So
okay.
Defensively, they're up here. Offensively, they're down here, right? Trying to give this to the people. Raiders, 26 in net points with minus 23. They are 21st in offense with 79 points. And they're 25th on defense, giving up 102. So where you've got a large difference between what the offense and the defense is doing with the Bears, you've got a much smaller difference, and that difference is pretty much centered around the bottom third of the league.
Right, I was about to say.
For the Raiders.
Note the difference didn't go like this. It went like this.
Right, toward the bottom of the rankings.
Take Chicago.
There you go. That's one of the ways that we look at things like this.
That'd be a huge upset, by the way. I'm not saying the Raiders can't win. That'd be a huge upset.
Oh yeah.
I kick myself if the Raiders win that game. Somehow. I don't know how I'll do it, but
you gonna kick yourself?
Kick myself in the ankle.
Take video. We'll put it up on Ben and Barry on Football.
All right, that'll work.
And we'll make sure that all the people get a chance to see that. And we shall make that.
Is this your intriguing game? I'm guessing. Tell me yes or no. Is this the intriguing game of the week for you?
No.
No?
What was my intriguing game? I forget.
Yeah, you better figure it out.
Oh, I know
this ain't
it. This is not it.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a division title, or division game, rather.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. This is a division game.
Yes, it is.
You got a bias plus score of 15, favoring the Buccaneers, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Favoring the Bucks. Coming in like that. Saints just finished doing it in the Cowboys, but the Bucks still got the bias going in their favor. Hey, look. Teddy Bridgewater.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Stepping in, doing his thing, man. Managing the game, beating the Seahawks in Seahawk land. Now he's going to deal with the Buccaneers, who again, now, the Buccaneers, we said, they're that team. Offensive, number 3, 123 points. Defensive, Buccaneers, 30th, giving up 117.
Right.
And that's their reality. That's kind of like with the Bears. We had the whole thing with the Bears that we just did, and then when you look at the Saints, well, let's see now. The Saints are coming in 22nd. Net points is -8 right now. The Saints are 20th offensively, putting up 84 points. 3-way tie with the Jaguars and the Vikings, just so you know whose company they're keeping. And then the Saints come in defensively, again, right in the middle at 17, giving up 92 points. So your Saints, again, they're in the top of the bottom third. They're not all the way at the bottom. So, and their game looks like it's coming together. This is Teddy's 3rd game, right?
Right.
Jameis now is starting to look like he's got promise. But right now, it goes, and that's a small bias. 15 is not a big deal. If you were to look across 4 games,
it's not. And I'm happy to see that they even have the bias, because seldom do they have the bias. The thing is, though, losing Drew Brees, I think the Saints, I have to commend them for the way that they've played after losing Drew Brees, a guy who, like Eli Manning, does not get hurt. A guy that you can depend on game after game, week after week, year after year, and a top flight player at his position. Losing him could have been a shock to their collective systems that they might not have been able to get over. But they trusted in Teddy, and although he's kind of feeling his way, I think they're going to be okay.
I don't know. Do you know what they pay? I heard they paid Teddy. I heard he got good
backup
money.
I think Teddy got some good backup money. Yes, he did.
Moving closer toward my model, what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well,
pays that. Got it.
His thing, if Brees doesn't get hurt, he don't get that money.
Oh, is that the contingencies there?
They extended his contract after Brees went down.
Oh, really?
Yes. When they realized how long he was going to be out, they said it was a we believe in you contract. That's the way I put it.
Interesting.
You're our guy. This is what we brought you here for. We haven't had to use you, so we really don't have to pay you because you haven't even been able to.
No, I think I might want to go in the open market. It's a lot of injuries out there. Pay me.
It's 1 year. No, this is his chance.
Yeah, to get
this is opportunity. So
set his value.
That's exactly. So he's in a good position, actually.
Could he be in the $25 million range by next year if he plays well this year?
I'm not exactly sure how much they gave him, but I think he's pushing that.
Right now.
Yeah. They gave him
a nice, like a starting quarterback.
They gave him a nice piece of change. They gave him a nice piece of change. But my thing is, I think that the Saints are playing with a lot of confidence. That win over the Cowboys, who people are anointing already, was a big confidence booster for them. And I think that their normal dominance over the Buccaneers, you throw all those things together, and I'm going to go against the bias again. It's a shame. even though the Bucks got the bias and they seldom have the bias, and I would love to go with them with the bias, I cannot. I'm going with the Saints in a high-scoring affair. And if it's the kind of high-scoring affair that I expect it to be, then Teddy's going to have a nice win on his resume. Boom.
All right. Moving on. It's been duly noted. You've been recorded. You went against the bias. How about this one, buddy? Going against this bias too?
Yes! I'm going to cut right to the chase. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. The Vikings are coming to New York City. Oh, excuse me. They're coming to the Meadowlands. MetLife. They have no clue about Daniel Jones. People are scrambling for tape on Daniel Jones from Duke, trying to figure out how is this young boy getting this done. You're only going to learn so much. What you're not going to learn is going to take a little while longer to learn, and that's what he's got up here. He has mastered their offense. They haven't dumbed it down for him a bit. He's running the Giants' offense. Couple that with Mr. Shermer, who was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. Interesting. Now, here's the problem. The Giants' defense. Oh, wait, it's not such a terrible problem because all they got to do is load up the box, stop Dalvin Cook, and let Cousins shoot himself in the foot. Take the Giants. I know it's scary. I know. Take the Giants.
Well, look, let me tell you. All right, let's take a quick look at the situation across the top.
It's going to make me sound real crazy. You're going to make me sound real crazy right now. But I'm sticking my neck out. I don't have a big neck, a long neck, but I'm sticking it out.
And points 4. All right. When I start to look down the list, right in the middle, 16, I see the Giants at 87.
This offensively?
Offensively.
In the middle of the pack.
16.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Baby.
That's what I'm talking about.
And guess who's two rankings below them? The Vikings at 64. Now you said they're looking at the college to get tape on them. All they got to do is look at the preseason.
Yeah,
we say at the same time.
Just college,
look at the preseason.
They're digging for tape.
What he did in the preseason. You know, he just showed that he had a level of command that made
nobody believed it. Nobody believed it.
Look, you had to believe it.
I had the Eagles fans screaming at me, "Why are you believing this guy? What has he done?" I said, "You didn't see the preseason? Oh, that's preseason." No, it's not that. We're not talking about the same thing. Yeah, I do the it's preseason too when it comes to the competition and the wins and the losses. But if you're a real football fan who knows football, you know a football player when you see one. You know an NFL quarterback when you see one. Obviously, you don't know. That's what I had to tell him. I'll see him again this week.
Big differentiation here, okay? The Giants come in ranked 21st on defense, giving up 97 points. Vikings are 7th, giving up 63 points. That defense ain't bad.
Yeah.
That's one
It's
thing.
not.
That defense ain't bad over there. They can get after you.
Yes, they can.
So he will get harassed. You know, he will get harassed. So you're going against it. It is what it is. I expected nothing different.
2 more pluses. Wayne Gallman, for some reason, just became Saquon Jr. I don't know how long that's going to last. And
Saquon wants to come back. I say he might play.
Why would he? Who told you that?
I'm looking at all the reports that are coming in.
There's no reports coming in saying he's going to play. He can barely jog, dude. They had a camera on him. He was jogging around the practice field. He has not run.
Trying to come
he has not cut. Barry, stop.
I'm telling you what's being reported.
Of course he's trying to come back.
Well, this week, this game. We shall see.
I can't. Now you sound like these other people.
I'm just telling you what they said. I'm not up in giant land.
Who's they?
All of the different media reports.
It doesn't even make sense.
We'll post it on Ben and Barry on football.
How's he going to see?
Dude, you and I think the same way. It doesn't make sense for him to try to do that. It didn't make sense. I'm just telling you what's being reported.
Anybody would even say that he would try to do it. It doesn't make physical sense.
It made even less sense because of how well their running game was going without him.
No, and screw that.
No,
the running game, I don't care how well it's going, it'll never be as good as if he's there. However, he cannot physically possibly come back this soon. It could not possibly have been reported that he wants to come back. He's trying to come back this season. I think you misheard it. I think you misheard it. I think you heard that he wished he could come back.
Let me ask you what you heard about the Eagles and the Jets.
What I heard about the Eagles and the Jets was that Sam Darnold is still down, and that although Deshaun is still not ready to come back, which, you know what? Let me tell y'all Eagle fans something. I said I wasn't going to get on y'all. Y'all made this big to-do about bringing Deshaun back. When he was here, all he did was get hurt. Now he's hurt again. The guy does no good for you. You can't make the club in the tub, okay? He's in ice packs.
That's a football.
He does this all the time. He did it for the team that should change their name. He did it for the Buccaneers. Here's another assignment for you. I'll do this assignment. Look up the last time Deshaun, whatever his name is, Deshaun Jackson, played 16 games. Huh? Come on.
I don't know
he can take the top off the defense. Who came up with that phrase anyway? I hate that. Take the top off.
You do hate that, don't you?
Take the top off.
I like that part.
Give me a break.
But you still got to stay healthy.
Give me a break.
All right. Bias score. 38 favors the Eagles.
That's not that great. And guess who got the turnover? I just blew your whole mood.
The Jets have the turnover differential. The Jets
and guess what? That's big.
In the top 5, baby.
That's big.
We talked about that.
Yes, we did.
Now, last year, that was one of the Eagles' undoings. They were near the bottom. So far, they're 17th, tied with the Colts and the Vikings, net 0 in turnover differential.
And let's remind everybody out there, that doesn't mean that they just didn't get a lot of takeaways. It means they probably had more giveaways than takeaways.
Not if it's 0.
Oh, they're 0? Oh, okay.
So it was equal.
Right. But you were talking about it wasn't a strength last year.
Last year, it was definitely
they had a lot of
a weakness. They had a lot more giveaways.
The Super Bowl year, they won games. Well, that was on special teams more than. Okay, I'm going crazy.
That was the magical year for them.
Bottom line is, I got to go with the Eagles on this one.
Everybody came with a second-string quarterback that year.
Yeah, the plan is definitely lined up for them.
But in any event, okay, so where were we with this?
Oh, we're taking the Eagles.
You're going with the Eagles?
Yes.
You're going to go with the bias on that one there?
Yes.
Buddy? Okay, all right. Yeah. See, that's a guy who doesn't let his biases get in the way of his bias choices.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh, here's a good one.
Yes. Division?
Again.
Backup quarterback for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he played
playing well. Playing real well.
Pretty well.
Mason Rudolph.
Even though, again, against my Niners with 5 turnovers, handed to him, he only scored 2 field goals. Okay.
Was Rudolph in the game for that one?
Yeah.
That was after Ben went down. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So that is what it is. And
I think that was his first game starting, though, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. All right.
It was.
I'll give him a break on that.
Yeah, give him a little bit of break, no doubt. And we got a front 7. My Niners got a front 7.
No doubt. Number 1 picks across the board.
Ravens got the skew going.
They need a bounce back.
They got a division game. This is a traditional headbangers ball.
Yeah.
And again, to me, as far as the Ravens are concerned, the offense needs to run through Ingram. That's as far as I'm concerned. Everything else, if there's one thing that they know that they should be able to depend on, is getting 3 to 5 yards every time you hand the ball to that guy. And once that's established, the world opens up to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's as far as I see it. Now, on the other side, the defense for the Steelers, they just brought in the guy, cornerback from the Dolphins. Minka Fitzpatrick, right?
Good player, very good player.
So they brought in a guy,
good young player,
which said to us earlier, or I know I said it, that this means that they expect to be competitive this year.
Right, and each week he's going to get more and more comfortable in their schemes and stuff. So I think he's going to
got one of the Watt brothers out there, so they got some
young
athletes.
One, TJ.
They got some athletes that can run a little bit.
Baller.
The baller,
TJ Watt ain't no joke.
So the bias score is 44. It's a skewed bias in my estimation, but it favors the Ravens. Now that you know the skew is in, what you got? The skew is in.
That's funny. The Steelers have the turnover bias, but the bias plus is still for the Ravens, according to what I see here. So that's pretty good.
Well, the Ravens
have obviously been a better team than the Steelers.
The Ravens
overall.
are fifth in net points at 35 with the bias that they got going for them there.
Right. So that little turnover difference is not.
The Steelers is 24th with minus 12. So that's a nice big net point different
Yeah.
But then you add, you offset that a little bit with the turnover differential.
Yeah. I think they're going to get after my man Mason Rudolph. And I like the guy. He's playing well. But I think they're going to get after him. And, James Conner is always a handful to deal with. But then the Ravens got Ingram. Something's got to give. And
Steelers don't have McDonald. They brought in some.
His name is Vanette.
Yeah,
I think he was with
McDonald.
I don't want to mix him up with Everett, who was with the Rams. I think this guy came from the Seahawks, actually, who now have a new tight end, rookie Disley, who is pretty good. So they're not going to miss him much. But Vanette he's okay. Bottom line is, both teams are going to want to run the ball. And one team's defense is way better than the other. So I got to go with the Ravens.
Okay. All right. We got the Ravens. He does. And the bias was with the Ravens, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So with the bias. All right. All is right with the world. All right. We got one team here. There's no doubt who the starting quarterback is. That team is a machine. The other team here, the team from Washington that needs to change their name, they have three quarterbacks,
which means they really don't have any.
Two who have experience in the NFL. If you would rate them on a scale of A, B, C, D, E, and F, are probably D pluses. And then you have a rookie who we're not quite sure because he didn't have a lot of college behind him. And the coach who at this particular point in the week, or at least as of the last report that I've heard, did not know who his starting quarterback was going to be, or else he's playing possum and he's just not giving up the goods on that. But you do have a situation here where the bias plus score, I do believe, is the highest of the weekend.
Yeah, it's a big one.
156 points. Now, that number is skewed. They got a little Dolphin skew going.
It's still, yeah.
The Redskins have played some tough teams, right? They haven't had no gimme walkthrough so far going to this. But it is what it is at 156. What you going to do about that one, man? What's up? What you going to do?
All right. Obviously, it's a no-brainer as far as the fact that the Patriots are going to win the game.
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
No-brainer.
No-brainer.
Okay.
156. I knew it was big. I didn't look at it. The question is, and this is a problem in fantasy. How are the Patriots going to beat them? In what way? Are they just going to just pound the ball and just run on them and just Brady's going to throw? Even in a game where they could control the game on the ground, Brady would never go 8 for 10 because he'd never throw only 10 passes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They're still going to stay balanced and throw the ball even when they don't have to.
Well,
they're going to throw it when they want to.
So
but they throw to their backs a lot. But they're going to go downfield some too because that's just who they are. And they do it when they want to do it, not because it's second and so and it's a passing down. They do it because when they want to do it. They run the ball on first down. They throw the ball on first down. As opposed to, just to give you an example, okay, I was watching something on the Eagles, and they were talking about how often they run the ball on first down and don't throw the ball on first down, and that it was not a good or favorable percentage, right? So teams start to get like a read on you, and the worst thing you can do is get yourself in second and long, because when you're in second and long, then you have to throw the ball, and if you don't complete it, you're basically on your way to punt.
Which I don't agree 100% with.
What, throwing the ball
on second and long, that you have to throw the ball.
Okay.
You know, so often I see that, and an incomplete pass then puts you in third and long.
Right.
Whereas a run, even if it's second and second and 10, for example, if you consider that long, right? Then if you run the ball and you get 5 yards, now it's
third and 5.
Right, it's third and 5. And third and 5.
Now you have to throw the ball.
No.
Yes, you do.
No.
Yes,
depending on where you are on the field.
That now you're bringing more into it.
Well, yeah.
We're talking generally speaking. Well, you're absolutely right. Depending on where you are on the field, third and 5, you got options.
Once you get it to 4th and 1, you know what I mean?
Well, nobody wants to go to 4th and 1.
But I'm saying,
again, where you
run the ball and you don't get the first down, in many cases you're in a 4th and very short situation.
But you still, how many times you seen teams punt 4th and 1? A lot. Yeah, the majority. Where they at, that's why I said when we're generally speaking, you can't say that. Now, if you're in the red zone,
guys ain't playing big boy football.
Well, you can call it that if you want to, but that's not going to happen. So my point was, you don't want to get yourself in that position. So you have to be able to mix it up, and that's why the Patriots are so good, because they can do what they want on any down they want. And they have success. Oh, don't poo-poo my
chicken little.
Don't poo-poo my pick, because guess what?
My pick.
Like I'm trying to say, this has fantasy implications.
Oh, really?
If they come out,
go ahead.
If they come out against this team from Washington that needs to change their name, and they come out in their regular offense as if they were playing, I don't know, the Colts or the Chiefs or somebody else, and just smack these boys down to 24-0 before halftime, then Sony Michel is going to get a bunch of carries in the second half. And if you play him in fantasy, he's going to win that game for you. But if they come out and they feed the ball to Michel, toss it to James White, feed Michel some more, throw a couple downfield, then toss it to James White again, no skill player on the Patriots team is going to get many points for you, and you could possibly depend on them and you could lose your fantasy game. Tricky. That's why you can't load your team up with Patriots and say, I got this, because you don't.
If you have a lot of different Patriots and they all have a little bit of points, does that help you?
No, it doesn't. You need 1 or 2 guys to get you decent numbers. Because at that point, if that player doesn't get you points and the player at the same position on the other team does, that's a deficit. You're going to probably lose. Now, a team that you do want a good number of players from is the Chiefs, because they live on the big play. The Patriots don't. That's what makes the Patriots dangerous.
So as far as your fantasy, that big play thing.
Yeah. If I play 3 Chiefs in one game, which I would try my best not to. But this week on a couple of my teams, I have Damian Williams, who's coming back from injury, which means Darrell Williams, who was playing good, goes back to the bench, and Shady's coming along. I think he practiced today. I would play both of them at the starting running back. And chances are one of them will have a great day and one of them will have a pretty good day, and that's be doggone good for me. And I could get away, although this is a lot scarier. Oh, if you had Mahomes, it's a wrap. But let's say I had Sammy Watkins. He hasn't played well the last couple of weeks, but he could blow up.
Yeah.
And Marcus Williams could blow up. Mecole Hardman had a stinker last week. He could come back and blow up. You don't know. Again, it's dangerous to have a lot of guys from one team in fantasy, but I would rather have a lot of Chiefs than a lot of Patriots. Fantasy lesson over. Where we at?
Wow. I know why I don't do fantasy.
you gotta love
now
football.
You know.
You gotta love the number. You gotta feel like they're yours. Tom Brady belongs to me.
Moving that ball around to all your different receivers is not good in fantasy.
No,
but
it's good in real life. It's good in real life.
It's the thing, and that's why they're going to smash them. Hey, you wanted to know what my intriguing game of the week was?
I like it.
Because this game has Minshew magic going for it.
I like it.
Panthers, both backup quarterbacks. 2 backup quarterbacks coming in.
Both playing pretty well.
Kyle
Allen is not embarrassing himself.
Both got some scary running backs.
Well, one has a nightmare, and the other one has a bad dream.
A nightmare and a nightmare.
Nightmare and a bad dream. Yeah, Fournette is not as steady, but he can get it done.
Got off last week.
Playing,
He broke a big one.
Yeah.
Hey, here we go. Finish the end of the play. Look at the sideline.
Yeah, take me out.
Take me out.
Yeah.
You know something, and I noticed this. Coaches, you get a big run from your running back, they will come right back and get a ball to him again.
Some will.
I'm saying it. It's like, why? Don't you have nothing else? That man just ran 45 yards diagonally.
You don't see that a lot.
They do it though.
You don't see that.
When I see it, I'm going, why?
I've seen guys break off like a dazzling 15-yard run, which can take a lot out of you, and then come back and get the ball again.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking 15.
But a 45, nah.
11-point favors, bias plus score of 11 favors the Panthers in this situation.
Jaguars have the turnover differential.
And they have the Minshew magic. Who do you have,
right,
Mr. Dickerson?
I'm not going to go so crazy on the Minshew magic like you are, but I am going to go against the bias plus, and I'm going to take the Jaguars. I think that Mr. Minshew is on something. Yeah. His confidence is extremely high, but what's even more important than that is the confidence of the team.
Even without Jalen
in him, Jalen's becoming an afterthought, and he's making himself an afterthought.
They picked on the boy who.
Yes, they did. They got him too.
They got him a little bit, but he grew up a little bit on him. I think.
Well, he had no choice.
Yeah, well, he's doing what he got to do.
The bottom line is,
and ain't nobody beating down.
What's the defensive numbers for the Panthers and the Jaguars?
I'll tell you, but is nobody beating down the door to get to talk to Jalen?
I ain't heard none.
I've heard nothing.
The talk on Jalen is, what's it going to be today? He's already been sick. He's already had a baby. He already had a bad back. What's next? Yeah.
I don't know. Jaguars. Again, we were tied with the Texans, and that point's at 0. Panthers are plus 15. They're 11th. So they just won out of the top 10. Panthers are right there at 11th also in scoring with 95. Where are the Jaguars?
Points against, they're even.
Points against.
Might as well say.
Yeah, look at that.
It's 2-point difference.
Look at that. Jaguars, okay, 19.
That's what I'm saying. So, again, I'm going with the Jaguars. I don't see where the Panthers defense is going to be able to make that big of a difference, as I should have given them more credit last week. This week, I am not going to give them the credit because I think the Jaguars offense is feeling real good about themselves right now. He's got multiple options at wide receiver. Mr. Fournette's running the ball well. I got to go with the Jaguars.
He's going to have to deal with a really smart linebacker on the other side of that defense, though. That guy, man, he's a thinker. That Keekly guy. So, he makes a difference.
They're gonna give him a lot to think about.
He's gonna have a lot to think about. Okay. Well, anyway, again, when I choose my intriguing game of Sunday, okay, because I'm limiting it to Sunday at this particular point. Visit the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings because I'll do a full blog write-up on this particular game.
Got it.
Okay, so we'll go into a little more detail on the Net Point Power Rankings. All right, you talked about them. You talked about them with some questions. The bias plus of 36 favors the Texans over the Falcons. I talked a little bit about Watson. You didn't agree with me, but I'll be surprised if you go against this bias. 36 favor the Texans. What you got?
I cannot go against this bias. The Atlanta Falcons have not shown me any reason to think that they'll be able to get to Deshaun enough to disrupt him and keep themselves in this game, nor have they shown me enough offensively to go up against the Texans defense, who's rated 11th in points against. This looks like a really bad day for the Falcons, if you ask me. I strongly suggest we take the Texans. I'm going there. No doubt about it.
Going with the bias on that one. I can't blame you on that one. That just seems like that just makes sense there. But what I always tell people, when the team beats the bias, and I have to go back and check Sterling Net Point Power Rankings while I fix this here, for the bias buster of the week, because that team whose differential between the amount of points that they won by and the amount of bias points that went against them is our bias buster of the week, and I'll try to point that out on the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Okay.
So the Chargers, after having to take that long road trip out to Miami, are back home, which is a good thing for them.
Division?
Yes, it is a division game.
Weird.
Denver Broncos are not playing well. People are all over Flacco. Von Miller can't get no sacks.
Are they really all over Flacco?
Yeah.
Has Flacco not played well? I mean, I don't know. I know he hasn't really stood out per se.
Right.
But I can't remember that anything particularly you could look and say, this Flacco's not getting it done per se.
You got to remember, these fans saw John Elway and Peyton Manning. So Flacco's a little bit of a letdown.
They've also saw a few other guys.
They also saw Tim Tebow beat the Steelers in a playoff game.
Well, but he's not even
Their standards are high.
They also
I don't care.
What was his name? Was the big 6'8" guy that they basically dealt to?
Osweiler?
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler?
They also see Brock.
That was a bad experiment. But listen to me.
Go ahead.
They gave him the same treatment that they're giving Flacco now. Those are spoiled fans when it comes to the quarterback position. I don't blame them. They're not going to settle for mediocrity. They are going to boo you, and they're going to let you know. They're not going to be patient. So he gets what he deserves. But it's not because they're not going to give him a break because he hasn't been terrible. They're not going to give him a great break because their standards are higher when it comes to that position, and he's not fulfilling their expectations. That being said,
go ahead.
They have an opportunity to win this game. The Chargers have some problems on their defense, mainly injuries at some positions in their secondary and one of their pass rushers. Forgive me for not saying people's names that don't come to me right now. They've got some weaknesses on their defense. If there's a game, it's like I said for the Cardinals, if there's a game that Denver, because they're winless, that Denver could possibly win, this could be it. But I do not have the cojones to go against the Chargers, so I'm going to pick them and go with the bias.
Yeah, Chargers are 10th in net points at plus 16, tied with the Packers, one step ahead of the Panthers and the Seahawks. So the company that they're keeping in net points, as opposed to the Broncos, who are keeping the company of the Steelers, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Jets.
Not to mention Melvin Gordon's back.
Not to mention Melvin Gordon's back. Now, wasn't that a long, strange trip right there? Where he had,
I think he's going to
end up. And he came back without getting a contract.
It's okay. I think it's going to work out well for him. He didn't want to do the whole Le'Veon Bell thing. See, the difference is he really wants to play. Like, he really wants to play. He missed playing. I believe that. I believe he missed playing. I believe he missed his teammates. And I believe he didn't see anything better holding out the whole season than holding out as far as he did. He made no progress in talks. The team announced to the public.
One that's early in the contract because he's still got like what, 2 years left or something?
Yes, they're always like that. These dudes, it's not hard for a star player comes in young and starts getting off young to outplay his contract. He's making like $8 million a year. He has far outplayed his contract. It's just the sticking point is always what they want as opposed to what the team thinks they're worth. And the team is always in prove-it mode.
And Austin Eckler is not helping any.
By playing
great.
Right. But now we have a situation like I spoke of previously about the Chiefs, where you could actually, at least for this game and maybe another game down the line, play both of them in fantasy and get away with it.
I always have to make sure that I'm keeping up with you when you slip away from reality into fantasy. So
fantasy is based on reality, brother. Fantasy is based on reality. The numbers that you achieve in fantasy are based on the actual statistics that you accumulate in a real game. The only fantasy is stop. The only fantasy is that the players on the team actually play for different teams. That's the fantasy.
No, it's part of it.
It's not part of it.
It's part of it.
All of it.
We already talked about how it's not even congruent with reality in the way that you would choose your team and stuff. But let's move on to
what does that have to do with what we're talking about? What does that have to do with
about
you cannot say this is not reality when you know that this part of it isn't reality and this part is. You can't throw the unreality thing over the whole thing. You can't do that. It's a viable game that gazillions of people throughout the universe play. More than Madden. Far more than Madden.
They play Fortnite too. So what? What are you trying to say? Big deal. Cowboys,
what reality is Fortnite based on?
Cowboys, Packers.
What reality is Fortnite based on?
None.
Thank you.
As much as
what reality is fantasy football play? As much as fantasy.
These guys
That's another
don't even
ignorant
play
statement,
on the
bro.
same team.
That's another ignorant statement. But for the sake of the people that are watching, I will move on. Anybody that plays fantasy knows you're just talking.
Go ahead.
Why would you make a statement like
Packers
that?
At
Why would you
Cowboys.
Say that though?
I
deserve an apology for that.
You deserve an apology for that.
Because you said it's the same as Fortnite, bro.
No, you saying so many people play it, like that's proof of something. A lot of people play a lot of stuff.
I didn't really prove anything. As proof of anything.
Then it's another fan. That's a different.
I'm saying that all those people understand the game, how it's played, and what part of it is actually fantasy as described in the dictionary, as opposed to reality with the results that you get for each individual player. But you can't think that far because you're really not interested in fantasy. So just say that and leave it alone. Don't make statements that are clearly untrue.
Your conclusions are dubious at best. So let's move on to the Cowboys and the Packers, because we never agree on that subject, and you know that. Cowboys and Packers. Bias of 30 favors the Cowboys. Devontae is not there for your boy Aaron Rodgers. The Cowboys just took an L from the Saints, who now are using their backup quarterback. But the Cowboys might have the Miami skew built into this net point bias here. What do you think?
They didn't even score that many points against Miami, did they? There's no skew here. I'm not giving the skew to
Maybe
anybody
they should have
but
had
the Ravens and somewhat to the Patriots. Nobody else gets the skew. There is no skew. The better team is going to win. That's the Dallas Cowboys. The game might be a little tougher than people may suspect,
really,
simply because I think the Packers can kind of I don't want to say something that's not. Let's just say they get it up for this one. I believe they'll get it up for this one. Unfortunately, without Devontae Adams, they're going to have to depend on receivers that just simply have not proven themselves yet. They have the ability, but they haven't proven themselves yet. And I don't know that the Cowboys would be silly enough to not load the box against Aaron Jones, who's the only real proven offensive player they've got besides Aaron Rodgers. Even Jimmy Graham is no good to you unless you're in the red zone. The Packers don't have a whole lot going for them, except they may be able to slow down Zeke and make the game competitive. And if they can, in fact, do that, it won't look good for Dak if he can't go through the air and put these boys away like he should. So I'm going with the Cowboys.
Dak coming in and spank the Patriots. They might go ahead and write that man a contract.
Well, if they play the Patriots, but
if
he spanks the Packers, it's not that big a deal.
If he spanks them,
it's not that big a deal.
I think it might help.
It's not that big a deal.
Colts, Chiefs. Bias plus score 51 favors the Chiefs. Colts aren't playing bad.
Nah.
Chiefs are just playing great. Even though they had a good test against the Lions. Where do the Colts and the Lions? Do they intersect at all? Colts are 12th in scoring at 94.
The Lions were 9th.
The Lions are 9th.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Lions are 20th in points against. Colts 24th.
That could be a problem because the Chiefs are first in scoring.
It didn't mean anything to the Giants and Lions.
Well,
it may not mean anything to the Colts. The Colts are good. The problem for the Colts, Marlon Mack is hurt. They're not sure if he's going to be able to play. I don't even think he practiced today, so we got to check and see if he practices tomorrow. If he practices tomorrow, even in a limited fashion, he will probably play. If he doesn't, they're talking about see if he got on the flight to Kansas City. Because if he's really hurt and he can't practice on Friday, he probably won't make the trip. So if he doesn't make the trip, then you have to make other. Sorry, I was getting ready to say something about fantasy, but everybody knows that's some unknown silly thing that people do. So we won't talk about that.
Please, hey, look, I invite you.
Anyway,
please talk about fantasy.
I think that the Colts could possibly give the Chiefs a little bit of trouble. They would give them more trouble if they were at home, the way that the Lions did when the Lions were home. But I don't see that happening in Kansas City. The rah-rah is going to be there. The crazy fans are going to be there. It's going to be loud. And the Chiefs should probably have their way with them. So I'll stick with the bias.
I'm going to stick with the bias on that one. All right. Well, now, Ben.
This should be your intriguing game right here.
I never choose my team for the intriguing game.
You should.
But let me say this much.
If they're worthy.
You talked about fantasy. I usually talk about Madden. And I told you that, I don't really play online a lot because I'm just too busy. I can't play a game that I don't want to stop. You know what I mean? So I can stop when I'm playing against the computer. What I did decide, as we said, that I would do the franchise. So I'm following the same schedule as the 49ers.
Okay. Did you play this game already?
I just played the Browns.
Okay.
And I lost.
Okay. 3
turnovers did me in.
Okay.
I'm scared now. I'm a little scared.
You throw interceptions?
Yeah. 3.
Who threw them?
Huh? Garoppolo.
Did Garoppolo throw them or did you throw them?
Well, it was a combination. We worked together.
Oh.
We worked together. But he's been throwing them.
That's like you fantasizing.
He's been throwing them. He's been throwing them without my help.
Put yourself in Garoppolo's body and go, oh,
that's right.
Shoot.
He's been throwing them without my help. I didn't help the situation at all. But guess what else was weird about it? In the game at the season, Kareem Hunt is playing.
Okay.
Kind of caught me off guard. That quickness, man, it's bad enough that they got Chubb.
Yeah.
When Kareem Hunt comes back week 8, sheesh.
Maybe not.
It's a lot of talent.
Maybe.
It's a lot of talent.
What are you doing preseason?
What did he do?
Nothing.
Did nothing?
Nothing. Got plenty of time to do nothing.
That's interesting.
Yes, it is.
42, Bias Plus score favors the Niners. I'm scared. What about you?
It's a game to worry about if you're a Niners fan, but I think they'll win the game. I think the Browns slightly overachieved last week. Slightly. I'm not going to...
Overachieved, eh?
Yeah, slightly overachieved. They shouldn't have beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
You know my problem with the Ravens
and they beat them kind of handily. So I think they went over their heads a little bit, and they're going to go out to San Fran. They're coming off a bye. Shanahan's going to have them ready, and it's going to be a problem.
They are coming off a bye.
Yes, they are.
You know what the thing is with the Ravens? This is what keeps coming to mind for me. What was the old Cardinals? And he said they are who we thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the Ravens is concerned, I keep thinking they aren't who we thought they were. That's the question with the Ravens. Are they who we thought they were? Well, because you've got questions about the offense.
Still could be.
You said that.
I always do that. That's right, because it's still early. I'm trying to give them an opportunity. That one game might have been a glitch. I don't know.
And then we see a fall off in terms of the defense, which they cannot afford.
I was surprised.
When I'm looking down the list for week 4 in terms of points against, I find the Ravens at an even 100, ranked 23rd. And that's what, you don't expect. Now, again, they did play the Chiefs. They did play the Chiefs.
And they scored points. It's not like they didn't score.
Yeah.
That was a close game, wasn't it?
That's why the Ravens are 5th in net points. That plus the skew. So this is going to be an interesting game. But as far as this one is concerned, just a little scary for me. Just a little scary. All right. Well, Mr. Dickerson, that is the Monday night game. So it's going to be on national television. We'll all be sitting home with our beverage of choice. The weather's starting to get cold. It was 90 degrees in Philadelphia yesterday and like 63 today or something like that.
Yeah, I hope that was the last 90 we see for a while.
Yeah. I actually wanted to I haven't fired my heating system up yet to make sure.
Oh, I'm far from
No, I'm talking about test-wise.
Oh, okay.
You fire it up just to make sure everything's cool. So when you do have to fire it up, it don't go, start sputtering and like your car, you didn't run it yesterday, whatever. So in any event, that's the season. Anything relative to this upcoming weekend that you might want to say in general, something that you're looking for? Did you have an intriguing game?
Oh, I mentioned 2. The 2 that I thought should have been intriguing, Jaguars-Panthers and Buffalo Titans. Simply because both teams are so close, not only in records, but also in the power rankings.
Okay.
So, if they're not close offensively and defensively, they're at least close in one of the categories. And the team that you might think off the top of your head would be favored may not be favored because of turnovers. So that those things all mixed in make those games intriguing.
Very intriguing. Awesome. All right, so we're finishing up for the week there. We did the upcoming week with the Bias Plus reports.
Yes, sir.
Remember, you can go to Sterling Net Point Power Rankings on Facebook, and all of those reports that we just went over are right there.
Absolutely.
Okay. So once we finish that, those structured parts of the show, we go into what we call rants and stuff.
Okay.
I'll start with you. Do you have any rants or particular comments that you want to make? and the rants and stuff.
You know, I've been holding back on some things.
Really?
Because they've been in the news so much, and I thought people were getting tired of it. Nobody cared, in my opinion, because it's not really different from a lot of other people. But I got to tell you this. Vontaze Burfict, okay? He's got a problem. And if they ban him from the league for life, I would have no problem with it, okay? This guy has used his head, his shoulder, his forearm as a weapon for years now. He has seriously injured players, okay? He's given out concussions like candy at Halloween. And then when they ejected him from this game last week, he was laughing. I mean, literally laughing and giving people, the fans, this and going, get out of here and all this stuff. He really, really, really doesn't care. Playing in the NFL, I've heard players say it's a privilege. You know what I mean? It's not a right. It's a privilege. Yeah, you get paid well, okay? But it's also a fraternity. It's also a brotherhood. And although people get injured, and although things that shouldn't happen do sometimes happen, this guy has been way over the line far too often. And then to show the type of attitude that he did after this last one, to me, that was despicable. And I'm done with him. I really am. If they can figure out a way for him never to set foot on a football field again, I would be more than happy. And shame on you, Marvin Lewis, for enabling him as long as you did. So now we're at the point we're at now. That's all I got. Man, that's.
You know, it's funny when you say that because you were talking about those roundtable discussions.
Yes.
And the guys, the old school guys, what they don't understand is the level of camaraderie of a lot of these young guys. They're like, they would never even think about posing.
Oh, from team to team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking a picture, shading jerseys, and they're like, what's that all about? You know, I'm Mean Joe Green. My job was to like try to decapitate this guy with the cowboy uniform on. So, but now that fraternity thing, now that they're in the Hall of Fame and they're all in their, you know, their later years.
They all speak of it.
Yeah, they all speak of the fraternity, the brotherhood, the mutual respect and everything. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, that's going on. And Burfict is kind of somewhere in the middle of that old school stuff, but he's, you know, he's always been that guy that's somewhat of a bad actor. That's kind of what he did. You know?
I can't remember, and I'm sure it's happened, but I can't remember the last really good hit he put on somebody that was legal.
Okay. All right. I don't have so much rants, but I do have some things I want to throw out to you.
Okay.
That I know you weren't prepared for. So one of the things that's fun about Ben and Barry on football, again, this show was inspired because we've been arguing about football and stuff going on out 40 years now. Right? So nothing in terms of that has changed in terms of the disagreement. But we both have a common football experience, background, played on the same teams, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, we actually kind of like religion, where you actually agree more than you disagree, but you're arguing over those small points of disagreement forever. Right. And they'll just never be. But I want to ask you, you've seen now Air Raid come in with the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
And now, rather than calling signals, we have the clap. What do you think about that?
Hate it.
You watched a lot of college, so you've seen the clap and everything. And how do you think that translates? What kind of pros and cons do you have with that in the NFL? Because I think they've already showed film of the NFL defensive gaming the system. They're clapping on the other side of the line of scrimmage now.
Right. Which, okay, first of all, you know there's a rule that says the offense I'm sorry, the defense cannot utter the same words or phrases or noises, because I guess hut is the real word.
That's the bottom line.
That the offense uses as part of their cadence.
Right.
The defense is not allowed to do that. Okay. So because clapping is not verbal, they have to count. Well, they're going to have to put it in because that's crazy. If a receiver who's out wide is not looking in to see if the ball is snapped or not, or an offensive tackle who's a little set just a little bit further back than the other lineman can't get a clear view, then he's not going to get off on the snap count, and he could be slow and he could let a sack go. I don't know.
Now, I'm understanding that the benefit here is that it's supposed to cut through the noise so that it's more audible for your offense.
Okay.
The clap. I don't know if that's true or not, right?
Okay. If that's what they're saying, it could be true.
You know, that's kind of quick because some of these guys, I mean, you know, you've seen, for example, right, we were watching the Broncos when what they were throwing out, what was those crazy signals that they were throwing out at one time? Everybody heard them. You know.
Oklahoma. I mean, not Oklahoma.
Omaha. Everybody heard Omaha.
Yeah, but everybody uses that stuff.
No, I'm just saying in terms of the ability to hear.
Yeah.
You know, that sound pierces through. The voice does pierce through to some degree. Yeah. And I don't know if a clap does any better.
Well, it works better when you're at home because your home crowd's going to be quiet when your offense has the ball.
Well, that might be a good point there. You got a good point there. The other thing that they're saying was that the defense, being that they can see the clap, whereas the offensive line, they actually are depending on hearing it, might actually be somewhat of an advantage because they can see the clap, but then now you have the fake claps, right, that are going on. So you got the fake claps on the defensive side, you got fake claps on the offensive side. So just wanted to kind of hear what you had to say. You say you hate it, right?
I prefer a silent count. I've seen the Steelers and somebody else that I can't think of right away where the offensive guard actually kind of stands up and turns back and looks at the quarterback and waits for a signal from him and then gets back down and taps the center on the inside. That's a silent count. And what he's telling him is, the quarterback is ready to receive the ball. You snap it when you're ready. That's a silent count. You seen the leg get raised? We use that on my flag team.
Okay.
The center gets down, he gets set, and he looks between his legs. And when the quarterback raises his leg up, he knows he's ready for the snap. He's not going to call an audible unless he goes, oh, check. And then the center snaps the ball when he's ready.
So that means everybody else has to really see the ball.
Go off the snap, yes.
They have to go off the actual movement of the ball.
Yes.
Interesting. Von Miller, 100 career sacks.
Yay. Great player. He'll be in the Hall of Fame, first ballot.
Did you know his name was Vonnie B. Vishon Miller Jr.?
No.
Yeah, 100 career sacks.
That's why he goes by Von.
That's why he goes by Von. We did not mention the passing of the Arizona Cardinals owner, Bill.
Yeah, it's Bill Bidwell, longtime owner. He was really up there in age too, I think.
80-something years old.
He's been the owner since they were the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, maybe not him.
Okay.
But his family, the Bidwell family, has owned the team for many years.
Okay. Another thing I want to bring up that I'm watching, just some observations, and maybe might look out for this.
Mm.
You hear about getting that run game going for play action.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of play action where no run game ever got going. It's like it's an unearned play action. And in many cases, nothing slows down the quick when you need to be getting that ball off quick than play action, and when you really haven't established the run in the first place. You can get your quarterback killed in play action if you really haven't earned that run yet. Are you seeing that?
And the defense should, in fact, get in there and try to kill him. Sorry for using the word kill, but you know what I mean. Because they're out there on the field. They know that the team is not having success running the ball and has gotten away from it. So play action means nothing to a smart pass rusher. It means absolutely nothing. You're giving him an empty hand and pretending like you're tossing him a tree and that you want him to react to. And there's nothing there. And he's like, dude, I can see you don't have anything. You know what I mean? That's crazy. But I think I don't know if it's the offense coordinator, head coach, whoever the play caller is just going script. Like, is this down? Is this so we need to do this? But you're not fooling anybody.
Okay.
But you know what? Even if they can get a half a second of reaction from a linebacker who thinks they just might try to run on this play, it could be helpful. So I kind of see why.
If it's earned, especially.
But when it's earned, it works far better. It works far better.
Don't even talk about it. You know what I mean?
So it's not a point I would think of why bother to do it. I think it's more, if it's earned, it's going to be far more effective.
All right. Did you see Odell throw a pass for the Browns?
No, I missed that. Was it completed? Because he's done that before.
I'm looking at Odell, and I'm wondering, could there potentially be a quarterback controversy? Because he looked great throwing that ball.
Quarterback controversy with who?
Odell, I know this is whimsical.
Oh, okay, good.
And Baker. Or is the potential that Odell could become like Tyson Hill for the Browns?
He's not tough enough.
Don't think he's tough enough?
He's not tough enough. In order to be like Taysom Hill, he has to be able to run the Wildcat. He's not tough enough for that. I'm sure he's got slick ball handling. He obviously knows how to throw a forward pass. He's got good form. And I've seen him throw long ones.
Deep. Yes.
I've seen him throw deep ones for the Giants.
He can go deep.
So none of that's a problem. And if they don't work that somewhere into their offense, I don't care if they use it once a year. It's got to be there because he can complete that.
Yeah.
But
I would work it in a lot more. Now maybe you might not go.
Well, you don't want to overdo it on plays.
Taysom Hill, you got him returning kicks. You got him.
Yeah.
He's like a tight end almost.
Well, he can return kicks.
Well, I'm just saying Taysom Hill is like you said, the durability, the thickness, I think is a little bit more. You wouldn't want to get Odell too banged up.
Not only physically tough, but he's more mentally tough too.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I have another question here. I'm seeing a lot of passes. I guess they're timing passes, but it looks like the quarterback never actually read the defense. Like he's throwing balls into double coverages and things like that.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, are you seeing a lot of that? I'm seeing a lot more that where it just really looks like, it's like, I guess, 1, 2, 3, you throw the ball over there. But I'm looking, the ball's coming down. There's like 2 or 3 defenders there. And I'm like, the guy wasn't really open. I don't know why you threw it there. In many cases, there are other people opening. Are you seeing a lot of, is that timing that they're trying to do? Are you seeing a lot of that?
I don't know that. I don't think it's timing. I think that you have to give credit to the defense and whoever's calling the defense as far as their matchups or the scheme that they're running that's allowing them to be in the right place at the right time. Remember, these guys look at film. So they study down and distance and the propensity of a particular team to do a particular thing in a particular situation. That's kind of what they go by, on top of course, what they do well. But that's kind of what they go by when they try to figure out what plays they're going to call defensively. Are we going to be in this defense? Are we going to be in this defense? Are we going to overload here? Are we going to go single high safety? Are we going to go Tampa 2? Are we going to go, you know what I mean? And sometimes they guess right. And when they guess right, if the offense doesn't throw an interception, they're lucky.
But that's my whole point. If the guy's not, all of that preparation
you're saying
is
why
great,
throw it over?
The guy wasn't open.
Right, but again, I think when you're saying timing, I think you're thinking it's more they believe that they will get this type of defense, and they believe that this guy will be open if he runs this route. And then they throw it before they realize that there's some rotation going on. Like the defense doesn't set up and say, we're in this, you know what I mean? They roll into stuff. And if they roll a guy over the top and the other guy gets a nice drop, next thing you know, if that pass doesn't drop in there perfectly, you're in trouble. It could get batted down. It could, or he sees it at the last minute, which is usually what happens, and he throws an incompletion. And you're like, oh, why would you throw that at all?
Well, I threw 3 picks in my game against the Browns, so
okay,
I understand throwing picks.
And does it seem like the guy comes out of nowhere?
Well, in this
sometimes you throw it right to him.
In this particular case, I think what was happening was, like in Madden, it's one thing to be open by 2 yards or 5 yards or 10 yards, but if you there are certain guys that you need to be open by at least 5 to 7 yards, or he will make up that distance.
Okay.
And before that ball gets there,
okay.
You think he's open, he looks open,
right?
But that guy's on the ball,
right?
You know? So
right.
It's one of those things. All right, we're gonna jump to another. We're gonna jump to another one. All right, here we go. I do want to talk about the yellow flags that have been thrown in the second preseason, because I was listening to the Giant-Washington game, and the commentator literally said that the game was, quote, drenched in yellow.
What game was that? I'm sorry.
The Giants, Redskins.
The Giants game against the Washington team.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They need to change their name. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Washington, they need to change their names. And
dressed in yellow
because there was yellow flags. So many plays are getting called back on penalties.
Do you remember
holding? A lot of holdings.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, a lot of holdings. And then you have defensive holdings. You got offensive holdings. The whole question of interference now.
The pass interference thing is a mess. You can do a whole thing just on that alone. They have not gotten a handle on how they want to distinguish that. Because seldom is it clear. Usually you go to replay because something was bang, bang, and you say, if we slow it down, look on replay, it'll become clear to us, and we'll know. PI is not clear.
They did reverse the one in the Eagles game against the Packers. Against the tight end, Ertz.
It was offensive, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and which made you go, really? You called that in the first place?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. You called that.
So again, that's confusion in the referee's mind, I think, that causes him to call like that. That when you go back and look at it, you're like, I can't believe he called that.
Right.
You know. But first of all, if you get a lot of defensive holding, it's usually a linebacker or a D-back trying to slow somebody down, receiver, or somebody trying to slow them down to get downfield. If you see a lot of offensive holding, it usually happens on the offensive line. So now, I don't know who did what, but if there was that much of it, I don't know. It's crazy. I don't even know what to say about that. It obviously hurt game flow and made for a pretty boring game.
Well, before we wrap up, that's pretty much all I had. I did have a couple comments that I did want to throw out to you, and see what you had to say. Because again, you're still coaching, and very much in tune with what a lot is going on. This is a quote that came from, and I really should have written this guy's name. He was talking about the Patriots. And he said it's more about execution than talent with the Patriots. And that showed itself in the first 4 games of the season.
It's been showing itself for a number of years.
Yeah, well, they're there. They're at that point. Kansas City is executing at a very high level. Their defense now looks improved. We'll say it's improved. We'll say it's improved. And so that's an AFC potential matchup that I think has a high probability. On the NFC side, the big dogs are a little harder to kind of say.
Yeah, some people are still leaning on the Rams. A lot of people are leaning on the Cowboys. I'd say those two are probably the front runners. There's some,
but I don't feel like they're really big dogs.
There's some Eagles talk.
I mean, the Cowboys are second in
Well, no, they're not big dogs, but when we're only talking about the NFC, somebody has to be at the top of the pile.
Cowboys are at the top of the pile. They're second. But again, the Patriots have 95 net points. The Cowboys have 51. So everybody else kind of is in that range. My Niners are right behind them, but it's not exactly right behind them at 42 net points. So that's, but that's what happens. It's like there's a big drop off. And it seems as if in the NFC, the teams it's a little more it's going to be a little more competitive. Not right. No big standout
right.
like you have with the Patriots and Kansas City. So
True.
That's all I'm saying.
True.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right. That wraps up Ben and Barry on football. Generally, we like to show some social media. Let's see, Mr. Dickerson. We already showed Ben and Barry on football. But we already showed the Sterling net point power ranking. So let's just show, again, at Sterling NPPR on Facebook. Look us up. You'll see the Bias Plus report, the Sterling net point power rankings, and those statistics that we use in our basic conversation. Also on Facebook, at BNBOF, you have Ben and Barry on football. You have our story being told there. On Twitter, at B&B on football. I wish I could have gotten all of them to be like the same. I might have to work on that a little bit, so you can put one in. Maybe Google one and they would all come up, So that's the thing. Got to be Google friendly. And then Ben and Barry on football on the gram. And we're going to try to get a little more video up on the gram. We've got some video.
We hope to.
That we're testing out now because we've struggled to get our videos up on the gram. But we are there, and we are putting out some good information for people. All right, that wraps it up. Any last words?
You know what my last words are. Go Noles.